The defendant was your boyfriend. You became pregnant sometime in 2005.
Yes.
You broke up with the defendant and you were pregnant at the time.
Yes.
It is your claim that he assaulted you, and as a result of that assault, your baby was born prematurely and died. You want the defendant to pay for half of the baby's funeral expenses and damages for the assault.
Yes.
Mr. Jones says that you were the one who assaulted him, as a matter of fact, on the day that you broke up, that he never agreed to pay for the child's funeral expenses. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even positive that the child was his and told you that he had wanted a blood test before he assumed responsibility of the baby. That's your defense?
Yes, it is.
Okay. When did you become pregnant, Miss Johnson?
I found out I was pregnant July 22nd.
Of what year?
2005.
And were you living with Mr. Jones at the time?
Robert was staying with me along with his son because he was having arguments with his mother.
Did you move in with her in July or before that time?
I'll be staying over, you know.
You were staying over?
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you break up?
November 20th as a result of the assault.
Just listen to me. Had he slept at the house the night before?
Yes.
And the night before that?
Yes.
So tell me what happened on November the 20th.
November the 20th, I received a phone call from Rob at about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, then he hadn't been at your house 3 o'clock in the morning.
No, he was at the bars. He would frequently go to the bars and then come over to my house afterwards. And he had called me at 3 o'clock in the morning stating that he was going to come over. I ran downstairs and unlocked the door like I would usually do, and he didn't come in. So after a while, I looked out my window and saw that the car was parked and the headlights were on and the car was still running. So I laid there for a couple more minutes and then got dressed. And when I walked outside, I saw that Rob was passed out in the driver's seat. So I crawled into the passenger seat and woke him up and asked him, you know, what he was doing and why he hadn't come in the house, and he told me that he didn't know. So we were trying to get the headlights of the vehicle to turn off. They wouldn't turn off. So I suggested that we just unplug the battery. I was 5 months pregnant. I didn't want to be fighting with him. I would much rather just go to bed. He wanted me to, you know, be with him that night, and he wanted to be around me. So I stated, you know, let's just unplug the battery. We couldn't figure out the lights. So he started to proceed to back out of my driveway. I told him that he was drunk, that I didn't want to go anywhere with him. And he wasn't listening to me, so I leaned over and smacked him in the face. I went like this to the front of his face. He then looked at me, told me to do that again, and I looked at him and said, "What did you mean?" And the next thing I knew, he punched me in my face.
So first you punched him and then he punched you?
Yeah, I didn't punch him.
No, just a second. So first you punched him.
Yes.
And then he punched you?
Yes.
Okay, now I got it.
But the only reason I hit him is because he wasn't listening to me and he wouldn't stop the vehicle.
I got you.
So then my nose...
He wasn't listening to you.
Yes.
Why don't you just take the keys out of the ignition?
I didn't think of that.
You shouldn't have gotten in the car in the first place.
I shouldn't have told him to come over that evening.
That's also correct.
Knowing that he was drunk.
That is also correct.
Yes,
okay,
I agree.
Keep going.
I realized that my nose was bleeding very, very badly. So I opened the car door and I half jumped out of the car, and he like kind of gave me a little push along with it because he was laughing at the time. And I ran in the house and proceeded to call my mother first. And
so you weren't too far from where the house was?
No, I live on the second house at the corner of the block, and we were at the corner of the block.
Keep going.
I called my brother and he took me to the emergency room.
And what did they do for you there?
I first saw a police officer, and they went to arrest Rob.
That doesn't answer my question. What did they do for you in the emergency room?
At the emergency room, they took x-rays of my face, and I was having a sharp pain that was shooting from my back to my stomach. So then I was told that I had to go up to the maternity floor for monitoring on the baby.
And that was in November?
Yes.
And when was the baby born?
The baby was born in February.
February what?
7th.
How much did she weigh?
She weighed 2 pounds, 2 ounces.
And when did she pass away?
The 11th.
Between November 20th and February 7th, did you see the defendant?
I saw him at the court dates.
Other than that?
No, because there was a court order for him to not be within 1,000 feet of me.
Now, when did you have this conversation with him with regard to paying for the baby's funeral expenses?
Okay, the first conversation I had with Robert was when he called me in late June after Father's Day. And I said, well, I kind of need money, you know, we should be paying for her gravestone, and I have funeral expenses that I couldn't get a grant from the state from everything. And he told me that he would give me $200 in August, and that him and his mother could save that together. I then called him on August 24th, and he told me he didn't have the money. So I said that I would pay the rest of it and that he could just pay me back. And he proceeded to say that that was fine. The next time I spoke to Robert was on September 17th when he called me and asked me if I wanted to go fishing with him with him. So I said, yeah, that I would go fishing because I wanted to speak to him about, you know, the money.
Don't tell me why. You agreed to go fishing with him.
Yes. I knew
Is this
that.
the first time you had seen him other than the courthouse? Listen to me.
No.
Other than the court proceeding, is this the first time you saw him since November?
Otherly than court and then our daughter's birth, no.
Well, you didn't tell me about the daughter's birth.
My sister called him the morning that I was supposed to have a cesarean section. I was diagnosed with preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure, and then becomes toxic and it affects the baby's heart rate. And the first time I had high blood pressure was December 20th, and it proceeded to get worse throughout the pregnancy due to stress-related causes.
Don't tell me what it was due to, madam, unless you're a physician. Are you a physician?
No.
Good. Go ahead.
My sister called him the morning that I was supposed to have the cesarean section. He showed up shortly after our daughter was born, and I asked him if it would be okay with him to go up with her to the hospital up in the cities, because we live in Mankato, and she was being airlifted to Minneapolis. He said that he would go and be with her because they didn't expect her to live past the night. The next day, I was released from the hospital, and the following morning, Robert came down from the cities and took us up to the cities where the hospital was because we weren't aware of where it was.
What do you mean he took you? How did he take you?
We followed him.
What do you mean you followed him?
My mother and sister and I followed him in a different vehicle. Him and his mother drove in their own vehicle. So when we got to the cities, he went to a basketball tournament and left us with my daughter so I could spend time with her. And then later on that evening, he came back to the hospital when I was at the hotel the following day.
I'm asking you when you spent time with him.
I didn't spend...
You didn't see him at the hospital?
No, he left as soon as he got us there. We got up to the room.
You didn't see him in the hospital is my question.
No, yes, I seen him at the hospital.
How many times did you see him in the hospital?
Just that first day.
So the baby died in February.
Yes.
Between February and September 17th, when he called to go fishing, did you see him?
On occasion, out and about, you know, at like local stores, yes.
Other than seeing him at local stores, did you have a cup of coffee with him? Did you have a sandwich with him? Did you go out to a movie with him?
No.
Is that true, sir?
It's true.
So what prompted you to call her up to go fishing on September 17th?
Actually, she called me, and I just had mentioned we were going fishing. And if she, if she wanted to come, it was a beautiful day out. So she said, sure. So went fishing, took her home, that was it.
Go
ahead. So continue with your story, madam. Here we are.
We went fishing.
We are now September 17th fishing, and he hasn't given you any money.
And when we went fishing, Robert and I took his mother to Cub Foods so that she could get milk for the house before he dropped me off at my apartment, which is about 3 blocks away from Cub Foods, which is a local grocery store.
Just keep going, please. I don't need a map of the town. Keep moving.
So after we dropped his mother off at Cub Foods, it was him and I in the vehicle, and I brought up the money, and he told me that he had bills himself that he needed, and I proceeded to leave the vehicle. And then at the powwow, I saw him and brought up the money again, and that's actually
so you weren't afraid of him?
No. Not when he's not drinking.
No, you weren't afraid of him.
No, I'm not scared of him unless...
Why in the world, some 2 years later, are you suing him now for assault?
I just think that he owes me the money. I was emotionally distraught from the loss of my daughter.
I want to know why you didn't sue him before you went fishing with him.
I didn't want to go through the court proceedings.
Well, what prompted you now to go through a court proceeding to sue him for a punch that happened 2 years ago?
The fact that he won't pay for our daughter's funeral expenses.
Did he ever tell you that he wasn't sure that the baby was his?
No, he never told me that. And if he didn't think that the baby was his, why would he go up to the cities and sit with her?
I don't know. I'm going to find out. Tell me what happened on November 20th, Mr. Jones.
Okay, I had broken up with her earlier that day because she was real emotional, and she was kind of abusive towards me. You know, she would hit me in my chest or whatever. Kind of, she did it like she knew because I wouldn't hit her, and she knew that, you know, I'm not a violent person. I never hit a female ever in my life, and I broke up with her earlier that day.
Well, tell me about breaking up with her earlier that day.
I was actually going to play ball with my friends, which I always did, and she kind of like got emotional and started, you know, kind of like crying.
No,
she cried a lot.
Kind of like, if you remembered what she said, if you remember as closely to what happened, please, I would
Well, we
like
weren't getting along before this either, so on that day, I told her that it was over.
Is that right, madam?
No.
Before he went out to the bar that night, because clearly you had to unlock the door because you would lock the door, so clearly he wasn't living with you at that moment. Did he discuss with you earlier in the day on November 20th that he was not happy with the relationship?
No, he had never once tried to or attempted to tell me that he was not happy in our relationship.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, and so I called her and told her that I was going to come get my things.
What time?
This was at like about 2:30.
In the morning?
In the morning.
You crazy? Why would you call at 2:30 in the morning to say you were getting your things?
The bar was like right by her place.
So you had been in the bar, Mr. Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wasn't all like how she made it out to be.
I don't care whether you were all that. This is not an appropriate thing to do. To go 2:30 in the morning, to go while you're slightly inebriated, to get behind the wheel of a car and go anywhere, to settle anything.
Yep.
You're supposed to wait until the morning.
Okay, so I went and grabbed my, tried to grab my things. I told her that, you know, I just came to get my things and that it was over, and she kind of got mad because she didn't want to never break it off anyways. And prior to this, she had injured herself twice at work to get my attention. She would, oh, I'm at the emergency room, come down. And she, according to her, was in a car accident that rolled or whatever. This is all her stories, and I never had proof of anything, so.
How many times did you go to the emergency room with her prior to November 20th?
Just the day this kid was born. But after she had gotten pregnant, she told me that, like, just like weeks after I found out, she said that we got into an argument. She said she's early enough in her pregnancy where she can say somebody else is the father. And I said, well, how do I know that's not what you're doing to me? And I tried going to her first doctor's appointment, and she left me sitting out in the lobby.
Okay, got it. Did you ever tell her that you and your mother could save up $200 until August?
Yes, I did.
And that you would give her $200?
Yeah, I said that basically so she would just, you know,
I don't care why you said it.
Yeah.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did.
Now, let's get back to November 20th. You said you were coming to pick up your things 2:30 in the morning.
Yep.
2:30 in the morning you got there, and?
She opened the door, and she didn't want me in. And I wasn't going to barge in because that's not how I am.
Fine, so? So
she basically hit me in my eye because I told her I wanted my things, and it was over. And she hit me in my eye, closed the door, looked out the window, and I said, that's fine. That's the last time you'll ever hit me. And I walked all, her sister actually dropped him off at my work.
Is what you're telling me that she never got into your car?
She never did.
All right, I'd like to see the police report, please.
Yes, and I have pictures.
I'd like to see the police report, please.
If I could say something, too, there was never even a police or even there.
Sir, you pled guilty to 5th-degree assault, according to the plaintiff.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so? All right, so you told the police that he doesn't live with you. That's what you told the police.
I told the police that he was staying at his mother's house.
You told the police that you do not live together and that he stays on and off, but he lives with his mother. Who are you?
Robert Armando's mother.
Stand up, please. Your last name is?
Jones.
Miss Jones, you told the police when they came to your house on November the 20th to go downstairs and get your son. Is that right?
Right.
You told him to go downstairs and get your son because he came home drunk.
Right.
And he was passed out on the couch.
Right.
Right. And you, sir, when you were questioned by the police, you were so drunk that you denied even being over at your girlfriend's house.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know, Mr. Jones, there is absolutely no indication here, nor, I assume, do you have any medical testimony that would indicate a correlation between your baby's death 2 months after you got this black eye, because that's what it was, and the baby's illness.
No.
No. So what you're suing him for is for the simple assault of giving you a black eye and the $200 he promised you for the baby's headstone. He's not responsible with regard to any of the other baby's expenses because there is no indication that this is, in fact, his child. In order to do that, you either have to be married, which you are not, or you have to have a blood test, which would establish that he's the father. Then he would be responsible for half of any unrecovered expenses for the child. Since you don't have that, the only thing that you have to sue him on is his agreement that he would pay you $200 towards the child's headstone, which was really gratuitous, but he promised he would. You relied on that. That you have to pay, sir. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Since there is no correlation between the injury to your eye and what subsequently happened to the baby, I have to examine the circumstances surrounding what happened on that day. There's no question in my mind that he was drunk, that he has no recollection of what happened that day, that he's making it up as he's going along, because he even denied to the police that he was there that day. Even your mother was disgusted with you, sir. Is that a fair statement, Miss Jones?
Right.
Okay. Now, you pled guilty to assaulting her, sir.
Yes, I did.
And you received probation?
Nope, I just got a $500 fine.
No, he was placed on probation for 1 year.
Sir, you better start remembering things that happened to you.
I never was. I was supposed to get a probation officer. I never did.
I don't care whether you were supposed to, whether they never followed through and gave you a probation officer. Maybe you forgot. But if you were supposed to get a probation officer, it wasn't because they were giving you a probation officer for your birthday. They were giving you a probation officer because you were on
probation.
You have to learn, Mr. Jones, that there are consequences. However, Ms. Johnson, you don't get any awards for being the brightest bulb in the pack. When you're 5 months pregnant and your boyfriend calls 3 o'clock in the morning and says, I'm at a bar and I'm coming over, you lock your door and you keep it closed. You don't go outside to try to figure out how to get the lights off and disconnect his battery.
Yeah.
And you don't punch him in the face. But he started the problem by coming over there in the first place, which was really very stupid. And that, Mr. Jones, is going to cost you $500. So I'm issuing a judgment in the amount of $700, $200 for the baby's headstone and $500 for this 2-year-old assault. Thank you very much. That's all. He owes you for bailing him out of jail.
Yes, he does.
He says he never asked you. You bailed him out on your own. What were you in jail for, sir?
I forged some checks in '02.
For forgery.
Yes, ma'am.
And the forgery was in 2002?
Yes, ma'am.
When were you incarcerated?
New Year's Eve, '05.
Is that because that's when you were arrested or because you violated your parole or probation?
That's when I got arrested.
For the forgery in 2002?
Yes, ma'am.
It took them 3 years to figure it out?
It took them 3 years to catch me, ma'am. Because I didn't do anything else wrong.
Is that the only time you've been arrested?
No, ma'am.
Between 2002 and 2005, how many times were you arrested?
0.
Before 2002?
Couple, 2 or 3.
For what?
Me and a couple of my friends stole a racing four-wheeler.
Stole a what?
A four-wheeler, a racing four-wheeler when I was 17.
How old are you now?
25.
Oh, that's a long time ago. What else?
Possession of marijuana.
When was that?
I was 19.
Anything else?
Possession again.
Don't learn your lesson.
No, ma'am.
Now, is that forgery case resolved at this point?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it resolved after a trial or a plea?
After a plea.
What did you plead guilty to and when?
I pled guilty to forgery. I'm not sure. It was the last case was just resolved 2 months ago.
Which last case?
Well, there was 3 counties the checks were in. It was 3 different counties.
Where'd you get the checks from?
A friend of mine.
Whose checks were they?
His checks.
You stole the checks from him or he gave them to you?
He gave them to me.
To do what with?
To get money.
What were you using the money for?
All kinds of different things.
So it took whatever county was 3 years to figure out what was going on. So you were arrested December 31st, 2005.
Yes, ma'am.
What was your bail?
In the beginning, it was $89,000.
Was your friend arrested too?
I don't have any idea.
Why was your bail so high?
Because of the amount of checks that there was.
How much?
I don't remember.
Give me a ballpark figure.
$1,500.
How long did you spend in jail?
46 days.
Was that the first time you had been incarcerated?
For 46 days, yes, ma'am.
More than a day or two?
No. It was the second time.
How long was the previous time you were incarcerated for a substantial period?
A couple days, no.
A couple of days?
Yes, ma'am.
So this was 46 days?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you like it?
No, wasn't fun at all.
How many times did you speak to your mother? Did you call her?
Oh, yeah.
You call her every week?
Every couple days.
What'd you talk about?
Everything. How I was doing, how I was feeling. Was I learning anything? Was I going to do it again? My daughter.
You have a child?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do for a living now, Mr. Stephan?
I run a concrete business.
A what?
Custom concrete business.
Custom concrete?
Yeah.
You work all the time?
Most of the time.
You make a living?
Yes, ma'am.
You filed tax returns last year?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. How much did you earn?
I don't remember.
Ballpark.
$35,000.
Nice. And you only have one child?
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you live with?
I live with my father.
Still working the same business that you did last year when you were
No, ma'am.
making $35,000?
No, ma'am.
So you left a good business and you went into the custom concrete business?
Yes, ma'am.
So you must make more money?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Love it. Now, it's one of the things you spoke to about your mother, how unhappy you were in prison?
In jail? Yeah, of course.
Did you discuss with her bailing you out?
It came up time to time.
How did it come up?
I would ask her if she would bail me out, and she would tell me no.
And? And?
And?
But look where you are. You're here. 46 days later, you're here. So how did it come about, sir, that you got bailed out?
I finally made it to the last county that I was going to, and I made a phone call to my mom, and she had said...
You made a phone call to your mom at the last
said,
county. Shh. We do everything my way here, because it's my playpen. So you finally got to the last county where you had a showment, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And the bail in the other counties had been sort of resolved, so you were waiting to get to the last place because they weren't letting go of you until you got to the last place, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So now you got to the last place and you called your mom and you said...
Hi, Mom, what's up?
And she said...
I mean, basically, that's what I called her and said, hey, how you doing? And she told me to call her back in an hour. She was working on something.
And that's all you said to her. Hi, Mom, what's doing?
How's it going? Yeah.
How's it going?
And she...
All right, good. Now he's at the last county. What day is it, Mrs. Spurgeon?
Around the 7th or 8th of February, '06.
And he calls you from the last county that wants him,
Yes.
right? And what does he say to you and what do you say to him?
He was pretty upset.
What did he say?
Mom, I can't take it anymore. You've got to get me out of here. I've called Grandma. Grandma can't help. She has no money. She's on disability, my father's pension. And
Is this your mother?
This is my mom. Mm-hmm. I told him that I couldn't get him out. I didn't have any kind of money. All I had was my credit cards.
And he said?
I got a friend that's a bondsman. If you'll call him, he'll cut us a deal.
He said?
Ozzy gave me the name of the bondsman to call.
And did you call?
I did call him, yes.
And did you get a deal?
$1,500 is not a deal when, you know, I didn't get to spend any of it. I had to give it away.
Is that what it cost you to get him out?
Yes, all totaling.
What's your mother's last name?
McMullen.
Would you step up, Miss McMullen? How many grandchildren do you have?
17.
Is he one that you like?
He always calls up and says, this is your favorite grandson. That's okay.
Yeah, he's got a gift of gab. Did he call you from jail and ask you to bail him out?
Well, he said he needed help getting out, but...
Did he call you?
Yes, he did, several times.
Several times. And he said, I need help getting out?
Mm-hmm. He wanted to get out.
What did you say to him?
I can't help you. I'm on a fixed income, so I can't help you.
And what did he say to you?
I know. I guess he was fishing.
How many times did he call you? Trying to see if he could get some
3
money?
or 4 times, yeah.
Remember calling your grandmother?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ask her for money?
Oh, yeah.
Remember calling your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ask her for money?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Now we got it. Now you can be seated.
Okay,
thank you very much. See, I knew you might lie about your mother, Mr. Stephan, but I knew you wouldn't lie about your grandmother. You made some payments to your mother on this bail. How many payments did you make on the bail?
I gave her a couple $100.
Just answer my question.
I gave her a couple $100.
200.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what he gave you?
He actually paid it to the bonds company.
How much does he still owe? When you paid off the entire amount?
$1,350.
Okay, so these are my questions, Mr. Stephan. When you forged those checks with your buddy and got some cash, whatever it was, $1,500, did you buy anything for your mother?
No, ma'am.
Did you buy anything for your grandmother?
No, ma'am.
Did you give your mother any money?
No, ma'am.
Did you give your grandmother any money?
No, ma'am.
Did your mother get any enjoyment whatsoever from the proceeds of your forgery?
No.
Did she know or in any way help you forge those checks?
No.
So that when you got busted for check forgery, this was owing solely to your bad behavior, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Why should anybody else suffer for your bad behavior?
They shouldn't.
Great. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,350.
Thank you, Judge.
Together in August of 2006.
That is correct.
How long had you been dating before you decided to move in with him?
I met him in March, so I was dating under 6 months.
I ask that not because it's particularly relevant, but I'm conducting my own sociological study. I want to see how quickly it is that people make this
mistake.
Right.
Yes.
In any event, your lawsuit says that you moved in August.
Yes, August 5th.
And you moved out in?
September 25th.
Right, so the living together at least saved you a bad marriage.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Good. It is your claim that Mr. Ware is responsible for half of a cruise that you booked with his consent and his agreement to pay for half of the trip. It was a non-refundable amount of money. It was $2,000, $1,000 for you, $1,000 for him, which, of course, he didn't go on.
Correct.
Because the cruise was scheduled for?
October 13th. October 7th, excuse me.
Did you take anyone else with you?
No.
So you had the cabin all by yourself?
I sure did.
So let's deal with that first. You moved in August. Things started to go downhill right away. I don't have to know the why. It was not good. You were both not unhappy with the separation. Is that right?
Yes.
You moved out, but you continued to pay the rent. Your half of the rent.
I did.
Does she still continue to pay her half of the rent?
Up until December.
I think she's a princess. And you continued to live there?
Yes, I did.
All by yourself?
And my kids, when I had them for visitation, yes, I did.
Well, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
So you had a great place to live. Are you still living there?
Until January 6th.
And then what happens?
I received a 30-day notice.
Why?
Because she didn't pay her, as it states in this letter, she didn't pay for December's rent.
Why didn't you pay?
I paid my half.
Why didn't you pay the whole thing?
Because I have a written agreement from her that says that she would pay the half as long as I didn't have
I'm telling you,
a room.
if she's paid September, October, and November, and she hasn't lived there, and you've lived there with your kids, how old are you?
Me, 37.
Why don't you take care of your own responsibilities? Where are you going after January? They gave you a 30-day notice. Where do you intend to go?
Oh, I'll find a place. No, none in mind right now.
What do you mean you have none in mind?
Well, I'm looking.
How much rent do you pay?
$675.
Is that the entire rent?
No.
Or just your half?
That my half.
Okay. When you moved in to that apartment, where had you been living just prior to that?
With my boss, as well as Christina.
With your boss?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I am a cabinet installer.
And you lived in your boss's house?
Yes, I did. As well as he's a friend as well.
Before you lived with your boss, where did you live?
I lived with my friend, me and a friend named Brian.
And when you lived with Brian, how much rent did you pay?
About $300 a month because it was just for a room.
How many children do you have?
2.
How much child support do you pay?
The child support is, my son is not legally mine. I accepted that responsibility when he was born, and after she went after his real father for child support, so they dismissed that court order, and for Bella it's $246, I think it is.
How much child support do you pay?
$246.
He doesn't pay child support.
When was the last time you paid child support, Mr. Ware?
It's been a couple of years because my ex-wife put a letter in. She said that when she required me to pay child support, that I didn't see the kids regularly, so she wrote a letter to the district attorneys in Sacramento County.
That's hearsay. I just asked you a simple question. When was the last time you paid child support? You said several years ago.
Yeah.
You just told me that you used your apartment, sir, this apartment that you were living in and having half the rent paid by the plaintiff for both yourself and your children when you had them. So clearly you were seeing your children within the last 3 or 4 months.
Yes.
But you haven't been paying child support.
No.
Is this your boss?
Yes, it is.
How did I know that? Are you paid on the books or off the books?
On the books. I'm 1099.
And how much was your 1099 last year?
I didn't work for him last year.
Yes, he did.
Mr. Ware, he doesn't even want to stand up anymore and get involved with this, sir. Did you file tax returns last year?
No, I did not.
You just told me you lived with your boss last year before you moved in with her.
Last year.
What's your last name, sir?
McWee, ma'am.
You want to leave now?
No, ma'am.
You might want to rethink that. You get me? Good. So you're paid in cash and you don't pay taxes and you don't pay child support. You're supposed to pay your own rent.
I did. My half.
Well, you didn't pay, no, your own rent. Listen to me, Mr. 37 years old. You live in this country. You work for him. You're supposed to pay taxes like everybody else, which you don't do. You have children, 2, or maybe just 1. They come to visit you, and yet you have no fiscal responsibility for them. The rest of her lawsuit is, she says, A, she made a small loan to you for a lawyer. I'm not so interested in that, $199. But she said that you had no credit. Well, the reason you have no credit is because you allegedly have no income. So that she put all the utilities in her name. She put all the utilities in her name, left them in her name because she had no credit, and you didn't pay the bill, even when she was paying her half of the rent. Sir?
I was giving her half my check. She went over to my boss's house and received money from them.
You mean after she moved out?
After she moved out?
I'm talking about after she moved out.
After she moved out, I told her she threatened to turn everything off. I told her to go ahead and turn everything off.
Oh, she should have.
So?
And she didn't.
And she didn't.
And did you turn the lights on?
I
Listen to me. Did you turn the lights on?
Yes, I did.
Did you turn the stove on?
Yes,
did you
I did.
plug in a coffee maker?
Yes, I did.
So you used the juice. When you use the juice, you have to pay for it. Did you use the telephone?
Yes, I did.
If you use the telephone, you have to pay. If you're an American citizen and you use the roads and you use the other services that the government provides, you have to pay taxes. How much were your electric bills and service bills after you moved out? I'm talking about just for him.
Yes, the dish bill came to $292.23. I actually put a passcode on there around October 20th when I found out there was adult movies rented on there.
He had to do something to keep himself occupied. Next.
Sure West bill was $260.14.
Is that it?
Yes, and if you're not going to do the attorney bill.
No. $552, rounding it out, Bert. Thank you. Is that right?
Yes.
No sense. Good. $552. Now, let's talk about the cruise, Mr. Ware. You told her to go ahead and book the cruise?
The cruise was planned before I met her. We had been talking about it amongst friends before she moved in, and her sister is a friend of my boss.
Did you tell her to go ahead and book the cruise?
No, I did not.
That's not what you said here, sir.
My boss's wife booked
That's not what you said here, sir, in your answer. Just because you broke up doesn't mean that you don't pay for half the cruise. You pay for half the cruise. What?
In order to get the cruise, you have to do double occupancy.
Don't speak to me sitting down.
Sorry, ma'am. We told them both prior to this going that if anything happened, that you have to pay double occupancy to get on this cruise in order to get all the cabins together. So I said, if something happens, you can't change it, you can't get the money back, and they were both aware of that.
You made that clear to both of them.
Correct.
Terrific. Thank you. You can sit down.
I gave Gerald every opportunity to go on that cruise.
Listen, it happens. He's got to pay for half the cruise because you're out the money. Do you understand?
No, I don't, but...
Well, it's very, very easy, sir. There's no way that you wanted to go on this cruise, and there's no way that you were going to share a cabin together. Somebody was going to go on the cruise. Now, it is my sense that if you said to her, I will give you the $2,000, I will go on the cruise instead of you, she would have said, great. No. She would have said to you, great. You go on the cruise, and I won't. But right now, she had $2,000 invested in this cruise, and she hadn't seen a penny from you.
Yes, she had, ma'am.
Oh, really? You paid for some?
I was giving her all my checks that I was receiving from him.
Checks?
To pay for,
Listen to me.
well, cash, to pay for credit card bills that were outstanding when we met.
We're not talking credit card bills, sir. We're talking about the cruise.
That's how the cruise was paid, on credit card.
How much money were you giving her?
I was receiving $500 a week.
In what?
In cash.
I love it when a game plan comes together. Just think of it this way, sir. It's your contribution to taxes. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,552.
Judge,
That's all.
I have some joy. I want to get back to his daughter.
Perfect. That's all. Thank you. Your soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law, and I assume that sitting in a witness chair is your soon-to-be ex-husband.
Yes.
Okay. According to you, you purchased a home for your son and his wife. And the idea was that you and your husband were going to live with them. Unfortunately, your husband became ill and passed away.
The house was originally bought for us.
Yes, the house was originally
with
bought.
our money.
No, I'm well, sorry, Your Honor.
No, it was your money.
Well, can I just say something? If she wants to lie about
just a second.
10,000.
Just a second. Who paid the mortgage on the house?
I did. It was in my name.
I didn't ask you if it was in your name. I said who paid the mortgage.
For the first 8 months, my husband and I did. When they moved in, they shared the responsibility.
That's what I gathered. The first several months, you and your husband were making the mortgage payments on the house, and then you and your husband moved in, and then you split the mortgage payments, right? Yeah. But the house was purchased for them, and they were there alone for a period of time. Anyway, the house is really not the issue unless we get to the counsel. Don't interrupt me. House isn't really the issue until we get to the counsel claim. We're going to talk about the house in a moment. This has to do with the car that you purchased in your name but that your daughter-in-law used, it to take you around from place to place, all your appointments. She sort of chauffeured you around. Anyway, there came a time when you left the house, and shortly after you leaving the house, your daughter-in-law and son split up.
Right.
Your daughter-in-law went home to her family. Where do you live now?
That's not what happened.
Where do you live now?
I live with my mother.
In what state?
In Florida.
And where do you live?
Michigan.
Okay. Did you take the car with you?
At what
Where
time?
is the car now?
My husband has it.
Okay. It is your claim that you wanted the car, and your mother-in-law said you have to pay for it. You were annoyed that she said that you had to pay for it because you always thought it was your car, but you sent her $3,000. She doesn't deny that you sent her the $3,000, but she never sent you the title to the car and never sent you the car. So you want something. You want either the car or you want your $3,000. The mother-in-law says the $3,000 was for other bills that were outstanding. And in addition, she's counterclaiming because she says when you moved out of the house, you took her property, some appliances and things that belonged to her. So I'm going to cut right to the chase. Mrs. Richardson, since you acknowledge that your daughter-in-law sent you $3,000, what did she send you the money for?
I asked for $5,000 for the car. She sent me $3,000. They owed me like $6,000 just back rent, so I don't figure the car is paid for.
Wrong. If you asked $5,000 for the car and she sent you $3,000, you can't offset that. Get the money that they owe you from rent from your son. Get it from him, not from her.
May I speak?
When it's your turn.
Okay.
She stole $20,000 worth of appliances and stuff.
Listen to
from
me.
my home.
When you purchased this house, for the first 8 months, where she and your son lived there, were the appliances in the house?
There was old appliances. I purchased all brand new appliances.
And when you went home, after your husband died, when you left, in what month was that?
Around May, about the middle of May.
Of 06? And when did the two of you split up?
August.
And between May of 06 and August of 06, where were the appliances?
They were in the home when I left.
And where did you go? From Florida back to Michigan?
Michigan.
And what did you take with you when you went?
I took a clock, my big TV, left leather furniture, all the appliances, everything in the home when I left because it cost me so much to move all the stuff. So I left it for the kids.
Absolutely right. So it was a gift. So let me explain something to you, Miss Richardson. Don't get involved between your son and your daughter-in-law. The courts will determine if she took marital property, because once you made a gift to them, you didn't make a gift to your son. Listen to me.
Okay.
You made a gift to them. You left it when you moved back to Michigan in May. You left it as a gift for the kids. And if they had stayed together as husband and wife, they would have had all the appliances. The problem is they split up. And then you said, well, I don't want her. She's a stranger to me now. She can't take this property. I bought it. It was a gift. Once you give a gift, you can't have sticky fingers. You can't say, well, it's a gift, but I'm going to hold on to it.
But I bought it as myself because I lived there.
I don't care. When you left it there. And you didn't abandon it along with the leather sofa. You took what you wanted. You took a grandfather clock. You took other things that were important to you. And you left the other things there for your children. Then. So it therefore became marital property.
She had no reason to steal it, though.
She didn't steal it. It was a gift.
It wasn't really a gift.
Well, Miss Richardson, I'm trying to explain to you, madam, you're not getting what the law is.
Okay.
That's the law. And if your son, during the course of the divorce proceeding, says, well, she took this marital property and she had no right to take the marital property, a judge will decide that. But it's not yours. You can't sue for it. You gave it away. You gave it away to them. And as between the two of them, a court will determine whose property it was, whether she cleaned out the house or whether she didn't. But it's not yours anymore. You gave it away. Let's get to the car. When did you tell your daughter-in-law that you wanted $5,000 for the car?
Before I left the home.
So that was in May of 06. Is that what she told you in May of 06? You wanted $5,000?
Husband and I discussed it, and I told him I don't feel I owe her anything for this car. I have been a personal slave to her, driven her anywhere she's asked me to go.
Well, listen to me.
Broken in
don't speak. Just because you think that doesn't make it the law. Car is titled in her name. You took her where she had to go. You also used it for yourself when you had to go to, I don't know, bowling, Pilates, hairdresser appointment, whatever. Right. You took the car yourself. So in exchange for that, you had a car. And what you did was you drove your mother-in-law around. When you weren't driving her around, you were using it yourself. So whether you thought that you were entitled to it or not, that's totally irrelevant. She said she wanted $5,000 for the car. You go back to Florida. When did you have a discussion with her and send her $3,000?
My husband and I discussed it, and I said, all I can get is $3,000.
Where did you get the $3,000 from? Look at me. Don't look down there.
My mother obtained a loan.
When?
It would be late May, and I made the deposit in June 20th.
Before you and your husband separated?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you gave her a check in late May for the $3,000?
Well, she was gone, so we deposited the check into her bank account, and we gave her the mortgage money as well. You'll see it's $4,000.
No. That has nothing to do with it. She already told me. She wanted $5,000. You sent her $3,000. She considered it for other bills. She can't do that. Where's the title to the car?
The original title was destroyed.
And here's what I paid for the car.
Can be destroyed?
Here, ma'am.
Lost in the mail.
What?
Lost. She took my mail for 6 months. I spent $80,000 on that house.
Who's living in it?
It's empty. I can't even sell it.
Just a second. Who's living in it?
Nobody's living in it.
Why isn't he living in it?
He lives here in Michigan with me now.
Oh, well.
But I just lost.
Because if I'm down there, she makes my life miserable.
Shh, listen to me.
$80,000.
I'm not speaking to you.
Okay.
I'm not speaking to you.
Sorry.
If your mother's out some money, get a job and make sure she's whole. Miss Richardson, you cannot take her money. That money was for the car. That's what it was for. That was before they separated, so that you went back to Michigan, right, without the car.
Right.
And she got the money from her mother. This is her car. It is not your car. Don't get in between your son and his wife if they're in the process of divorcing.
So this $80,000 that she's actually I spent, I know she got money. She kept my mail. She run my cell phone up to $1,000.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. You can sue her for certain things, but you can't keep this money. And if you spent $80,000, you spent $80,000 on your son, not on your daughter-in-law. You spent $80,000 on your son because, but for your son, listen, if she came to you and you didn't know her from a hole in the wall and she wasn't married to your son, you wouldn't have spent a quarter on her. You spent the money because you wanted your son to be comfortable. And if he was married to this lady, well, she's the beneficiary of that. So the house isn't in her name. The house is in your name.
I'm losing that, too. So.
Well, sell it. Meanwhile, you have to sign the title to the car over to her because the car belongs to her. You accepted the money for it?
But it's not paid for.
What do you mean it's not paid for?
$3,000 isn't $5,000.
Listen to me. You said you wanted $5,000 to them before you left. There was conversations that took place between the three of you. There's no question in my mind about that. There is also no question in my mind that you accepted the $3,000 in payment for the car because you took it and you spent it. It wasn't until 3 months later, when they separated, that you said, well, that money was for other things. No.
So she
doesn't go that way. This is her car. And don't put yourself in the middle of these two people. You spent money. It's unfortunate. The marriage didn't work out. The marriage didn't work out, and it's over. And there were certain things that she took appliances from the house. I'm sure that there were certain things that your son took. What did you take from the house, sir? Stand up next to your mother and just answer my questions. Now that you moved back to Michigan, what did you take with you or sell?
Nothing. Because she emptied the house.
No, listen to me. She didn't empty the house.
Yeah.
She took the appliances, according to your mother.
Emptied it. My clothes, every personal belonging I had, premarital. She emptied the house. I came back to an empty house. My mom blew $80,000.
Just a second. Did you take everything from the house?
Yes.
Everything.
Just a second. Shh. Don't speak. Did you take everything from the house?
Not every single thing, no.
Yes, she did.
Don't speak. What did you take from the house?
I took whatever I would need to have the kids having the same normal life they had before.
How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
One to be 12 and one to be 5.
Like my dad.
Don't speak. Don't speak. Where were you living? In Michigan?
When I moved out,
Where did you go?
I didn't have a home.
So where did you go?
I went to a friend's home.
Boyfriend.
And it's going to be over. Do you understand? It's going to be over. What state do you live in now?
Florida.
Which is where you lived as a marital couple?
Yes.
Why did you move back to Michigan when you have 2 children in Florida?
Because she was trying to get me put in jail. She stole everything. She come into my motel room and took my pool stick, and I'm a professional pool player.
Listen to me.
After she emptied the house, took my dad's wedding band he wore for 43 years that's worth $20. It's 10 karat gold that belongs to my mother. All 9 of my pool sticks, all my clothes, 3 different cell phones that she came to my hotel room to get in my hotel room to take the stuff, and I filed a
asked you a question, sir. The question is a simple one.
It's just all the truth.
The question is
That's why I moved.
The question is a simple one.
All right.
How do you move clear across country when you have 2 children?
Because there's a lady that's trying to put me in jail and comes to where I am when I try to ignore her to steal things I have. Excuse me.
Let us sign over the car, please. I would run away from him, too.
Really?
Sign it. The car belongs to her. It's your problem how to get it, but the car belongs to her.
Well, she should owe me $1,000 for cell phones that she stole.
Then sue her for the cell phones.
Well, where am I going to do that at? I mean, she steals and took money, took my checks for 6 months and taken my money out of the bank and everything.
Give the title to the car. That's what she wants. Counterclaim is dismissed. Very unfortunate situation. You got yourself in the middle of something. You have 2 grandchildren. You should never do that, madam. When you have 2 grandchildren, listen to me. You have 2 grandchildren.
I don't see them either.
Excuse me?
I won't see them either. She's the one.
She wouldn't let her see her grandchildren when
Madam,
we lived together.
I'm telling you something. You're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. You have a son who I've only met for a short period of time. He's not wrapped too tight. But you're the grandmother. You're the grandmother. And if you have 2 grandchildren, I don't know if he's your only child or not, or if you have other children. If he's your only child, I sort of get it. So that these are your only 2 grandchildren. I would not have gotten into a situation with her where you end up in court. Just pay attention. Don't look at him with rose-colored glasses. You have to know who your children are. You have to be fair. You have to be dispassionate. She may not be perfect, but you have to know who your children are. You got it?
Yes.
Goodbye. You knew the defendant, who was a mechanic, and you entered into an agreement with him that he would fix your car.
Right.
And according to you, your agreement was that the car would be ready in a week or 5 days. If it went over that, he was going to compensate you for the rental car.
Exactly.
Now, the car wasn't ready on time. He was supposed to pay for the additional days.
Right.
In addition to that, is your claim that he took the rental car.
Exactly.
Which, for some reason, you left at his shop, drove it, and caused damage to it, and you were being charged by Enterprise Rental Car for the damage that you ascribed to him.
Exactly.
Okay. The car you were in an accident with was a 95 Tahoe?
Yes.
Is that your car?
Yes.
Alone?
Me and my boyfriend's car.
Who purchased it?
We both did.
You have insurance?
Yes.
Did the insurance pay for the accident?
Yes.
How much?
$4,045.
Who did they pay that to?
Paid it to me and my boyfriend.
Did you take the money?
I took the money and paid Herman $2,800.
They paid you $4,000 for something that he fixed for $2,800?
Yep.
And it never dawned on you to take the rest of the money and give it back to them?
They didn't ask for it back. They said they wouldn't pay for the rental, so I figured I'd use also some of that for a rental because I wouldn't have a car for a week.
Okay. So let us say he took the car, which you acknowledge. He took the car.
Yeah.
Don't acknowledge that you had an accident with it or that you damaged it.
No.
But you acknowledge you took it.
Yeah.
So let's say $2,800 is what he charged you for the car.
Yes.
Plus you say that he should be responsible $340 for the additional days that the car was rented
Yes.
when he didn't have it fixed on time.
Yes.
Right? Plus $340. Plus $701 for damage to the car.
Yes.
That's $3,841. Did you have any other expenses by virtue of this accident that you had?
No.
Well, my calculations are that you're still ahead $200 from what you scammed out of the insurance company. You expect me to give you more money? What are you looking at me? Am I speaking some sort of a foreign
No,
language
I just
that you don't understand?
expected to be paid for a car that I rented, and he said he'd pay for the extra week.
You didn't pay for the extra week. Your insurance company did Think of it this way. On what date did you have the accident? March 29th?
Yes.
March 29th. On March 29th, you started off with a car that was in good running order.
Yes.
Right? And zero in the bank. On April 15th, you had $4,045 in the bank from the insurance company.
Yes.
2 weeks later, you had your car back, you had rented a car, and you still have an extra $200 in your bank. Now, what you want me to do is give you the extra $200, plus you want him to pay you $1,100.
Yes, I would.
That means that at the end of this accident, you have your car
It doesn't
and an
matter
extra $1,300. Insurance isn't supposed to make you rich, madam. It is supposed to compensate you for your damage.
But that wasn't the deal when I had rented.
The deal that you entered into with your insurance company is to be an honest insured. I'm speaking. The deal that you entered into with your insurance company is that if you had an accident, they were going to compensate you for the reasonable cost of having your car fixed. And the reasonable cost of you having your car fixed was $2,800.
That's because he told me that's how much it was going to cost.
So why didn't you tell that to the insurance company?
I did. He actually wrote up something higher than what he was going to charge me.
And did you tell the insurance company that he did
No.
that? Let me tell you all about the doctrine of clean hands. The doctrine of clean hands is something that we learned very early on in law school. It says that when a citizen comes into court and asks the court to hear their case, they can't come in with dirty hands, which means they can't come in being wrong, scamming somebody and saying, well, he's a worse scammer than I am. Why won't you help me? What he did was worse. I had a deal with him. We had a deal that he was going to jack up the cost of fixing the car. He was going to have the adjuster come to his place and say it needs this and this and this and this and this. And he was going to get $2,800 to fix it, and I was going to end up pocketing the rest, which was $1,000 or whatever. And the only one that was going to be out is the insurance company, and they got plenty of money anyway.
Well,
so, madam, you get from me nothing. Zippo, nada, except a lesson in morality. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
In Tucson, where he's working out in the field, and he's staying in a motel, so he has limited access to clothes other than his work clothes.
Could you bring him a pair of long pants?
But I just...
I mean, he's not going to the beach.
I know, and I apologize. Okay. I just wasn't thinking.
Ms. Mellinger, this is your complaint. Mr. Scott is a friend of your son's. Are you wearing long pants?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, the two of them went off oil drilling something, got a job someplace, and they were rooming together. And according to you, you made a loan to Mr. Scott in the amount of $500 because he was short on cash. Stand up on your own 2 feet with your long pants, Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott says that you sent money, but you sent money at your son's request to your son. There was never an agreement by him to pay you back. That's your defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is your mother?
Yes, this is my mom, Charlotte.
Okay. Where did you go to work, Mr. Scott?
Well, at the time we were stationed in Nevada, and then the following hitch we were supposed to go down to Tucson.
And where is your home?
I live in Spokane, Washington.
How old are you?
20.
Were you paying your own way when you went to do this oil drilling?
Yes, I was.
You paid your own rent?
Not at home, no.
I'm talking about when you lived with him, when you were working. You were living together, correct, in a motel?
Correct.
Who was paying the bill?
He was.
Why?
Because I was unemployed before that, and we agreed that we would split the motel costs after I got paid, and I hadn't got paid until 2.5 weeks into the hitch.
Okay, and once you got paid, did you give him back the money?
No. Payments, and...
Am I scaring you? Am I scaring you?
No.
That's too bad. I must try harder. Now, you went to live with Dustin and you had an agreement, and your agreement with Dustin was, quite reasonably, that you would go to this place where you could both work and make a good living, make some money, and that you would split the room. But you didn't have any money.
Right.
So what Dustin does is he calls his mother and says, Mom, Kenny doesn't have any money. So I'm going to need some money to tide us over.
We talked about this agreement before we even left town. I said, I'm going to be broke. I'm going to not have any food. I'm going to need some help.
And?
He didn't help me with food or anything. He just paid for the hotel room, gave me a place to sleep.
Who paid the rest of the money? Your mother?
My mom had wired me some money for
How much did your mother wire you?
Um...
No, don't look at her. I'm asking you, how much did your mother wire you?
$200.
About $200. And I'm sure your mother has proof of that, right?
Yes.
Right?
I Western Union the money and tried to get the receipt from them, and we didn't have time to get that.
Baloney. How much was the motel room?
Well, the first one we stayed at was a little higher price.
How much was the hotel room?
It's about $25 a night.
And how many nights were you there?
The first one we were there maybe about 4 or 5, and then we switched over because that hotel was run down.
Stand up. No, I can't stand to look at your knees. Over here. $25 a night. What was the second room?
Second room was the same. $25 a night, 25.
And how many nights in total were you there?
The second room?
Both rooms.
Both rooms.
Dustin.
Okay. The first hotel was about 5 days, and the second hotel about 21 days in the second hotel, something like that.
So you worked a total of 26 days?
Yes.
$650 plus tax, right? So it probably comes to close to $800. Did you, in fact, give Dustin back $400?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Why not?
Well, it was told to me that I owed his mother. I did not owe Dustin.
You owed somebody for half the motel room.
I realize that.
So my question is, why didn't you pay it to either Dustin or his mother?
I started to pay it to his mother.
You did?
She agreed that $100 a month would work, and I gave her $100
good.
cash.
Right.
And next thing I knew, I had a letter in the mail saying we're going to court.
Did he give you $100 in cash?
Yes, ma'am. He did give me $100 in cash.
Did you write 2 checks to Mrs. Mellinger
Yes, I did.
on an account that didn't have any money?
Yes, Your Honor.
Don't encourage him. He did the wrong thing. You're 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a debt in this world, you're supposed to repay it. You're not supposed to take money from strangers and then make them enemies by not paying them back. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
The quickest way to lose a friend is to loan them money. I want you to remember that forever.
I will.
If you're a good guy and you lend somebody money, you lend a friend money, there's only one thing that I know for certain. You're going to lose that friend and you're going to be the bad guy. That's a lesson your mother should have learned a long time ago.
Your Honor, I've told Dustin that time and time again, but I am the guilty one here.
Well, you're the guilty one.
I
Because
didn't
he's
do
a
what I
young man
normally do.
who has a mother. If he needed money, he should have called his mother.
Right.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. That's all. Then I would assume that the person standing on your side is your brother. Is that right?
Yes.
It is your claim, Mr. Wood, that the defendants falsely reported that you were burglarizing their home, causing you to be arrested. You spent money on attorneys, and you want to be compensated for their false reporting of this burglary. Miss Golden and her brother say that you actually were in their home without permission, which is a burglary. They say that you retaliated by calling Child Protective Services and claiming that the two of them were using drugs in front of their children, in front of your children. Nice. And in addition, Ms. Golden is counterclaiming because she said because of your action, she was fired from her job. She wants to be compensated for her lost wages. When did this unholy alliance begin?
June 2004.
Did you live together?
No.
Ever?
No.
Did you ever stay over?
Occasionally.
How many times a week, Mr. Wood?
Once, maybe twice.
Did you have a key?
At one time, yes.
Would you occasionally go over to the house and answer my question? I don't want you to think of where I'm going, Mr. Wood. All I want you to do is try to tell me the truth.
Okay.
The truth will set you free.
Okay.
Did you ever go over to the house and wait for her to come home?
Yes.
Went into the house by yourself?
Yes.
That happened frequently?
No.
In the course of the year and a half that you were together, did it happen 10 times?
No.
It happened 5 times?
Maybe, yes.
When you went over there and neither she nor her, prior to February of 2006, did anybody report that you were in the house without permission?
No.
Did you ever take anything that you weren't supposed to?
No, I did not.
Tell me what happened on February 17th, 2006.
It was about 7 o'clock in the evening, 7:15. I was in Binghamton, and I got a call from Mindy stating that her brother had caught me in the trailer. And she said that I didn't have any business being in there because we had broken up the previous week again.
It was longer.
Shh, shh. And what did you say to her?
What's going on? Why are you doing this? I'm in Binghamton. I haven't been in Windsor for over an hour. Why are you doing this? And she said, you were there. I'm going to see you in jail. I'm calling the troopers, and slammed the phone down.
Okay. Miss Golden, were you at home?
No, I was at work.
Your brother was at home?
Yes.
Your first name, sir?
Kevin.
Do you remember what day of the week the 17th of February was?
Remember the day? No, I don't.
Do you?
Yes, Tuesday.
Do you remember what time she called you?
7:45.
In the evening?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Golden. I want you to tell me what happened on the 17th of February.
Yeah, I went out to eat.
No, look at me.
Oh, I went out to eat with my girlfriend. Came home from dinner. Proceeded to enter in the door. And when I bumped into Ray coming out as I was coming in.
He was coming out?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you say to him and what did he say to you?
Just nothing. We were just both like, yeah. And I heard a hissing noise. And that was the propane. So I went to investigate that. And I turned around. By the time I fixed that, he was gone.
What was wrong with the propane?
It was unhooked from the tank. Hooks up to the trailer for heat and cooking.
And it's outside?
Outside, correct.
Now, when you went inside, what did you see?
Nothing really. It was dark.
No, inside the trailer, sir.
Oh, what did I see? Nothing really. He was coming out as I was going in.
Anything missing?
No, not to my knowledge, no.
Anything vandalized?
No.
The only thing unusual that you found was outside the trailer?
Correct.
Mr. Golden, I'm unclear, sir. Was Mr. Wood inside the house or outside the house?
Inside the house, ma'am.
Inside?
Yes.
Is there a key that you used to get inside the house?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you think Mr. Wood got inside the house?
Had his own key?
Did you have a key to the house?
No, I gave it back to Mindy.
I had asked for it back, and it took him a week to give it back to me.
So you got it back?
Yes, I did.
When, Mr. Wood, did you call Child Protective Services on the Goldens?
I didn't hear from the troopers for a week to 10 days on the charge. And so as soon as I left the troopers.
So you filed the charges with Child Protective Services after these charges were filed against you?
Yes.
No.
No?
No. I have
Really?
copies of the
That
reports.
you see,
the day that he was arrested, February 17th, against me and my brother.
after he was arrested. You have to stop trying to figure out where I'm going, madam. You're not that clever. When did you stop being involved in a relationship, Mr. Wood?
February 7th.
Had you been back to the house since February 7th?
No.
So all the information that you had on February 17th when you filed the charges with Child Protective Services, you had on the 7th when you left. Is
Yes.
that right? And I assume you filed the report with Child Protective Services, Mr. Wood, because you were concerned about the child.
Yes.
And you filed those charges indicating that there was drug use in the home.
Yes, I did.
Now, what were you doing between February 7th when you broke up and February 17th?
As far as what? I don't
I
understand.
want to know if you were incapacitated.
Oh, no.
I want to know if you were hospitalized.
No.
So you want to tell me, sir, why you waited from February 17th to report to Child Protective Services something that you must have felt very strongly about this drug use in front of a child, right?
Right.
So explain to me why you waited 10 days.
I thought maybe it would change.
So what told you that it wasn't going to change when they filed these burglary charges against you? Is that what you're telling me?
No.
You mean it was just a coincidence?
I thought maybe.
You mean it was just a coincidence?
Yes.
That the charges were filed on the same day with Child Protective Services as the charges for burglary were filed against you?
Yes.
That's a coincidence, sir, that I find very hard to swallow. Because if someone is legitimately concerned about the welfare of a child, how old is your child?
He's 3 now. He was 2.
About a 3-year-old child that has no voice, then I assume that this drug use has been going on for a long time, right?
Yes.
That you would have reported it immediately, right?
Right.
You chose to wait serendipitously on the same day as you were arrested for burglary to report it to Child Protective Services.
Yes.
That would be unfortunate. Now, let us move on to your counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
He had filed another report against myself and my daughter's father. So 2 separate reports to Child
What were you
Protective.
doing with your daughter's father?
Nothing. He doesn't even know my daughter's father.
Well, what did he allege you were doing?
The same thing.
Did you ever smoke marijuana in front of your child?
No, ma'am.
Did your brother?
Not to my knowledge.
Well, you would know that, right?
I would hope so.
Let's get to the counterclaim.
Honestly, I just want him to leave me alone. And I wouldn't have filed the counterclaim if he hadn't done this.
Okay, so you're going to withdraw the counterclaim because you want me to deal with his claim of false arrest?
Please.
Mr. Wood, I believe you were there. How about that?
I wasn't there.
I believe you were. I don't see any other reason, sir. I understand that the grand jury refused to indict you, probably because you really didn't do anything while you were there except maybe pull apart the propane so that they would run out of gas. That's what you did. I don't necessarily believe that he saw you inside the house, but I believe that he saw you there. I don't know what you were angry at, but I believe that he saw you there. And I believe that you retaliated, and you retaliated by filing charges against both of them for drug use. I believe that that's an inappropriate way to conduct yourself if you were legitimately concerned about the welfare of an infant. And what you do is you report those concerns immediately to protective services, and you don't wait until you have an axe to grind to do it. That's not what Child Protective Services is there for. So I believe that you were there on the 17th of February. I don't think that you were there to burglarize the house. And by the way, Ms. Golden, you want him to leave you alone? He better leave you alone. Did you file for a protective order?
Yes, I did.
Do you have one?
I did. It ran out, but he was leaving me alone, so I didn't renew it.
How long did you have it for?
6 months.
So now he's leaving you alone?
Yes.
Perfect. Let it remain that way. Your lawsuit's dismissed, sir. You were there on the 17th of February. I believe you were there. That's all.
Very cute.
Did you ever think when he was born, when you were taking care of his colds and when you were cleaning up after him, that you'd ever be suing him?
Never.
You must be pretty frustrated.
Very frustrated. He owes me money. I mean, it's not even the money. It's the issue of responsibility. He needs to pay his debts, and that's why we're here.
How many children do you have?
4.
Where does he fit in?
The second son. I have an older son, him, a younger son, and a daughter.
What about your other children? They okay?
They're fine.
So this is what the case is about. You loaned him money for a car.
Correct.
Tell me your first name.
Jason.
Jason, when did your mother loan you money for a car?
I'd say last year around
Mr.
February.
Shapiro, when did you loan him money for the car?
May 13th of 05.
What kind of a car did you buy, Jason?
I bought a 67 Mustang.
67 Mustang?
Or, no, it was an 88, sorry. I was thinking of a different car. 88
You're only
5.0. Sorry.
century apart. What?
Yeah, it's an 88 5.0 Mustang.
And according to your complaint, Mr. Shapiro, he paid on the car.
Yes, he made 4 payments.
And what was the total amount he borrowed?
$1,500.
How much did he pay you?
On 6/14 of 05, he paid $120. On 7/18, he paid $95. On 8/20, he paid $80. On 9/21, he paid $75.
And then he stopped paying. And Jason says he stopped paying because the car got towed.
Yep.
And he couldn't get the car out of impound because he didn't have any money.
Correct.
So he called you, and he said, "Can you give me some money so I can get my car out of tow?" You said, "I don't have any money to give you to get your car out of tow." So the car didn't get out of tow. He lost the car, and he says it's your fault that he lost the car so he doesn't have to pay any more money.
Right.
Right? That's your defense.
Yep.
Do you want to say that to me? Because I've said it now, but I would like to hear it coming from your mouth, Jason.
Well, I borrowed the money, I got the car, then where I was staying, I was forced to move, and I couldn't move the car at the time because it was broken down at the time.
So where did you leave it?
In front of my friend's house.
How long did you leave it there?
Like maybe a week before it got towed because I had to get it fixed, and I was fixing it, and then I'm trying to
Well,
work.
you could have pushed it into somebody's driveway or something.
I didn't
right?
have no driveway to put it in.
Did you call your mom and say to her, "Listen, can I leave the car in your driveway?"
Well, I didn't think to ask her that, and
You didn't
then I would have
think?
had to have it towed over there or something. I didn't have the money for that either.
So you think it's her fault that she didn't lend you more money?
Yeah, so I can get the car. If I don't have a car, why should I give her the money for it?
Let me ask you this question, Jason. How old are you?
22.
Did you go to high school?
Yeah.
Did you finish?
No.
That was a big mistake.
Yeah, I know.
Now, you look like a pretty stout kind of guy. Do you ever eat at a restaurant?
Yeah.
Go in, you order dinner, finish the dinner, they bring you the bill.
Yeah.
You look at the bill and you say, "Why do I have to pay this? There's nothing on my plate anymore. It's all gone." What do you mean? I want you to make believe that your mother is a bank. And instead of borrowing this money from your mother, you borrowed it from a bank. Same scenario. You're doing road work on the car in the public street where you're not allowed to do it. You leave the car on the street. Somebody gives you a free pass for a while, but after a week, they tow your car. You don't have money to get out. You call the bank. Say, "Listen, I owe you money on a car loan, but unless you loan me more money, so I can get my car out of tow. I'm not going to pay you any more money. Hello? Is this a crank call? Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
Does that sound foolish to you, Jason?
Yeah, it does.
So let's not sound foolish. I mean, the first foolish thing that you did was not graduate from high school, because then you would have had money, maybe, to fix your car. Now let's get to the other problem that you had. I'll hear you again, Mrs. Shapiro.
He was accused of stealing at work.
Stealing cash?
Stealing cash.
What kind of place were you working at the time, Jason?
It was like a diner, maybe.
It was a sandwich shop.
And what were you doing?
I was cooking.
And you were accused of stealing?
Yeah.
Out of the cash register?
I don't know. They never told me where it was from. They just told me money was missing, and they feel that I was doing it.
Okay. So he called you?
Correct.
What did he say when he called you?
That he was accused of stealing and that they were going to press charges and put him in jail unless he came up with the money.
And you said what?
I said, let's go meet with her.
With whom?
With his boss.
Fine. So you sat down with his boss?
With his boss in her office.
Go ahead.
And at that time, she basically told me exactly what had happened,
Well,
the
tell me,
amount of money that was taken.
When she sat at the meeting with you and your son and accused him of taking this money, what did he say?
He had admitted to doing it. And she was willing
How much
to
money are we
not-
talking about?
$2,715.
I didn't say nothing like that.
What did you say?
I told them that I wasn't admitting nothing.
No, look, don't look down. Look over here.
I wasn't going to pay them. I was going to go try and get an attorney, try and fight them and everything. I wasn't taking the rap. I didn't see no proof I did it. I didn't see nothing.
Now, just a second. We're not talking about proof. Listen to me very carefully, Jason. You got...
Yep.
Your mother says that at the meeting with your boss, you admitted taking the money. But if you say to me, I told them that I wasn't taking the rap for this because I didn't do it, then you're telling me, in effect, that your mother is a liar. Is that what you want to tell me?
That's what I said.
What did you say?
I said that...
No,
didn't
don't
say
look
that.
down. Look over here.
I said I didn't say that.
You said you didn't say what?
I didn't say that I took the money.
What did you say?
I said that I was going to try and fight it.
With what?
However I could.
Is that what you told your mother?
Yeah.
Tell me exactly what you told your mother.
I didn't tell my mom really anything. I just said I wasn't going to... I didn't want to pay it. I didn't want to give them this money. I didn't want her to give them the money. I didn't want nothing. I just wanted to go try and get a lawyer or whatever and try and fight this out.
So then why in the world, Jason, did you call your mother and arrange to go to a meeting with her? And why did you go to the meeting with her? You've been told that you were accused of stealing. So there was no possible reason for you to call your mother or go to the meeting if what your intention was to say, fine, arrest me, I'm going to get a lawyer, and I'm going to fight these charges. You want to explain that to me?
Just figured she knew more than I did about the type of stuff, and she might be able to give me some kind of advice. What they were telling me.
Just a second. I can understand, Jason, you calling your mother at home and saying, Mom, I want to come over and talk to you. This is what they're accusing me of, and I didn't do it. I want to get a lawyer, and I want to fight it. What I don't understand, Jason, is why you called your mother and then went to a meeting with your boss, with your mother.
I just had her come with me.
Why? Why would you go at all? You knew what you were being accused of.
I don't know. I just went.
3 out of 4 ain't bad. Just say to your mother when she wrote out the check or paid them the money.
Nothing. I didn't actually see that happen.
Well, you knew she did it, right?
Yeah, I didn't say nothing to her, though.
You didn't say anything?
No, I was...
Like, thanks, Mom, for bailing me out, or I don't want you to pay this money because I didn't do this. I'd rather we spend the money on a lawyer so I can have a clear name. Didn't say that?
No.
Did you make an arrangement with your mother to pay her back out of your paychecks?
No, I never set that up.
Who did?
I guess the lady that I was working for did.
And how many days did you work after your mother gave them the money?
I don't know, maybe 3 or 4.
Why did you leave?
Because they were harassing me.
Who was harassing you?
The bosses. They were talking about me in front of me, and I wasn't feeling comfortable about that, so I quit.
And where did you go to work?
I went to another job. I got a job at Dairy Queen.
For how long?
About a month.
And where'd you go after that?
That was just a couple weeks ago. I haven't had a job yet since then.
The maximum limit in the small claims court in your jurisdiction is $3,000. Is that why you sued for $3,000? That's what you owe your mother. Who are you living with?
My friend.
What does your friend do for a living?
He works in, like, he makes the glass for the slot machines in the casinos.
Do you know that you sound to me like you're lost? Seriously. You sound to me as if you're lost, and unless you get control of your life, sir, it's going to be over before you know it. You can't be an irresponsible baby forever. Comes a time when you have to grow up and take responsibility for what you do and not make everybody else's life miserable. Your mother doesn't owe you anything anymore. Now you're on your own. Leave her alone. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all. Parrish, who was a boyfriend of yours for a period of time, owes you some money for rent and also for harassing you. Mr. Parrish says that you're actually the one who's bothering him, that he contributed to the rent while he was living at the apartment with you and your children. But when he moved out of the apartment after a disagreement, he stopped paying rent. He's not on the lease. He feels no obligation to pay rent when he's not living there. Okay. When did you move into the apartment with Mr. Parrish?
After we got engaged. We got engaged December of '05.
Did he give you a ring?
Yes, he did. I have it with me.
Okay.
And I even went with my mom and bought a wedding dress, and I bought my daughter's dresses. We were going to have a ceremony on the beach. And
when did you move in together?
Mid-February of '06. And he went with me to the leasing office. When we went to fill out the forms for the application fee, which was $150, and to transfer within the same complex to a two-bedroom, that was $500.
So you had a one-bedroom apartment with your two children?
Correct.
Where were you living, sir?
I was renting a house in Chesapeake,
with
which is
his mother.
about 35 minutes from where she was living.
Okay, so you weren't living together in the one-bedroom apartment?
No.
No.
I'm looking at him.
Sorry.
You moved into the two-bedroom apartment in February of 2006, and the lease was in your name only.
Correct, but we had discussed, we had an agreement that we would rent the two-bedroom together for 1 year to save up money to buy a house for after we got married.
Good.
And he paid half the rent for 10 months.
Right, I got you, while he lived there.
Right, correct.
And he paid the rent faithfully, half of the rent, despite the fact that he's only one person out of 4 living in the apartment, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, but they were minors.
I don't care if they're minors or not. He's one person out of 4.
Correct.
Living in the apartment. You get child support for your 2 children?
I get for 1 child because he has them half of the month and I have them half the month.
So you get child support for 1 child?
Correct.
How much?
$400 a month.
Okay. And he paid half of the other expenses on the apartment for the 10 months that he was living there?
Yes, he did. He paid half the utilities.
Half of everything?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, what happened when he moved out?
He didn't give me any notice. He just...
So you must have had a disagreement.
We got into a fight.
About what?
I had asked him to do the dishes, and he was watching TV.
Just you could have get a turn.
And I waited about 2 hours. He still hadn't done it. So I went ahead and did it. And I got upset with him. I said, thanks a lot for helping me out around the house. You know, you eat on the dishes too. And he said, well, I was going to do it. I didn't know there was a time limit. And he started yelling at me. My youngest daughter was home. He was yelling in front of her. So I'm like, well, I don't want you yelling around her. He said, well, then I won't. And he went and, where are you going? He's like, I'm moving out. He gave me no notice. I said, what do you mean? Are you going to a hotel room? And he's like, no, I'm moving out. I'm not coming back.
Miss Holtz, there must have been some clue to you prior to that things weren't going well.
We had had a few disagreements, yes, about...
So things were not going well?
Correct.
Well, you don't want your children to be involved with that sort of hostile environment, do you?
No, but he had only yelled one other time in a year and a half. And
well,
it wasn't
fine. That's fine.
Day occurrence.
That's fine. You don't want it to get any worse, do you? You don't want your children in an environment that's not healthy.
No, that's why.
So that it would be a so that it would be a good idea that he left.
Yes.
I would agree with that.
But I felt he was obligated for the last 2 months of the rent.
Where are you living now?
I just moved to a smaller apartment that I could afford on my own.
Just a second. How much rent was this apartment that you moved into together?
$1,203 a month.
And how much was the rent in the apartment that you had been living in?
It was $988. The 1 bedroom, and my new rent is $895.
So the difference in rent was $200 a month between the 1 bedroom and the 2 bedroom.
Right, but if we wouldn't have gotten engaged, I wouldn't have gotten that apartment. I would have gotten something I could afford on my own.
Listen
Your
to
Honor.
Me. I look at objective things. Objectively, you were paying $1,000 on one, and this is $1,200.
And I knew I couldn't afford it if I didn't have a roommate, or if we hadn't gotten engaged. I would have gotten a smaller apartment on my own.
Good.
And I also have bank checks for the transfer fee and the application fee, which he agreed to pay half of. And I also have harassment. I want like $1,000 for phone harassment. I have phone records of him calling.
You mean after, just a second, Ms. Holtz, do you mean to tell me after he moved out, because he said he wanted it over.
Correct.
He started calling you. You didn't call him.
No.
Just a second. Just
no,
listen to me. You just listen to me. You didn't call him.
No, Your Honor.
He called you.
Yes, and I have tape recording of it, calling me terrible names.
You never called me.
Just a second. Mr. Parrish.
Yes, ma'am.
When you left, sir, it is your claim that Miss Holtz called you.
Yes, ma'am.
What did she say when she called you?
She called me a lot of adjectives that I won't use here, and I left. The reason I left was more than just the dishes.
Go ahead, sir.
To back up and give you some background of just that day, I won't be long-winded. It was a Sunday morning. I had some work to do. I was going to do it early in the morning. Instead, I put that work off until the afternoon. While she laid in bed, I did the dishes, fed the kids, cleaned the kitchen, did 2 loads of laundry, put all that away, spruced the house up while she's still in bed, asked her if there's anything else I can do before I went and did my work. No, everything's fine. I went away and worked it took me about 3.5, 4 hours. I came back.
What kind of work did you do?
I'm a small contractor.
Go ahead.
It took about 3.5, 4 hours. I came back. The NFL football playoffs were on. I watched the second half of the first game. The next game was the Dallas game, which I'm a huge fan. She knows that. I sat down to watch that. In the meantime, she had gone in the kitchen and started going off about everything. I had left a Walmart receipt on the counter from where I bought some groceries the day before, which I bought my share and then some of the groceries for all 4 of us. She started griping about the receipt on the table. You know, why'd you leave this receipt here? You want money from me? I said, did I ever ask you for money? Is this why you left the receipt? She on and on and on. This goes on for over an hour.
It's not true, Your Honor.
Shh, don't interrupt him.
After the conclusion of that, she goes and stands in front of the television, or not directly in front of it, right beside it, hand on her hip, and says, you've watched one football game, now I expect you're going to sit here and watch another one? And I looked at her and I said, yeah, I'm going to watch another one. You know, I'm a Dallas fan. I'm going to watch the game. And she said something, and that was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I got up. I had some shirts and some clothes in the apartment. She goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm leaving. I've had enough.
Your Honor, he never works on Sundays. He hates working on Sundays. He did not go to work
Your
that
Honor,
day.
What difference does it make whether he
Because
went to
he's
work or
lying.
not?
It's showing that he lies.
I did go to work.
Ms. Holtz, if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. And what doesn't make sense to me is I listened to him only for a couple of minutes, and I've made a judgment, because I'm usually good at making judgments, that he's not a nut.
Thank you.
I don't.
You haven't heard this.
Oh, I don't think he's a nut. I think maybe he was stretched to the limit, but I don't think he's a nut. And I think when he left, he probably would have left you alone. But you started bugging him because you were angry, just as you are angry right now. You are so angry right now, you can't even contain yourself.
I'm just nervous, Your Honor.
You're angry. You're still angry.
I'm angry at what he called me, yes. He called me very vulgar and obscene things, and I don't deserve that.
I'm going to ask you again to answer my question and answer it honestly. After he left that day, who called who first?
He called me.
First.
Yes, he called me 27 times.
Just a second. So what did he say, Miss Holtz, when he called you after he left?
He said that I only think about myself, that I'm a self-centered, and I can't repeat what he called me. And yes, I did call him once. I asked him for my key back.
Just a second. My question was, who called who first?
He called me first. I have the phone records.
You have a phone record that shows all your outgoing calls?
Yes, I do, but his is first.
Great. Let me take a look at what you have. Put a mark next to where you called him.
I'll put a star where I called him. All the other check marks are him calling me.
Just go back to the beginning.
The beginning is where he left on the 6th.
What's your phone number, sir?
286.
At your mother's house?
That's my cell phone. That's the only.
At your cell phone?
That's the only phone I use, yes, ma'am.
Well, on the 6th, madam, 286 is outgoing.
It says incoming.
Outgoing, outgoing, outgoing. Then you have a couple of incoming. But on the 6th, I want you to point to where I've checked this off, please, and let her look at it.
All the highlighted ones. Okay.
I'm not talking highlighted. Look at where I made the check marks.
That was in the afternoon. He was still home. Or he was still, he hadn't moved out yet. That was in the afternoon.
Why would she call me?
The next day. It's the next day when he started harassing me.
Listen to me. What? Okay, give it back to me.
Incoming, incoming, incoming. These are all incoming.
Miss Holtz, you don't want me to think you're a nut, do you?
No, ma'am.
On the 6th, according to you.
That night.
I'm speaking. You called him at a time when you said he wasn't out working, because you said he doesn't work on Sundays. So clearly, you called him at that cell phone number, 216, 252, and 252.
Yes, he went to the grocery store.
So what'd you call him 3 times for?
He called me, and I called him back on several occasions.
So he went to the grocery store for whom?
For all of us. We all had to eat.
So he was out on family business?
Yes, before we got in a fight, yes, ma'am, he was.
After I finished working.
Just a second. Okay. Then the next phone call on the 7th of January was a phone call from you to him at 8:09 p.m. and he called you back at 8:29. You called him first. Then you called him at 9:10 p.m., 6:59 a.m., 7:30 a.m.
He wouldn't return my call to get my key back, Your Honor.
Please.
And I have the text messages right here of all the incoming text messages.
Okay, Ms. Holtz, I'm going
to
listen to me, madam. You got to get over it. Get over it.
It's okay to call somebody the B word and the C word?
Get over it. Sticks and stones break your bones. Names will never hurt you. Did your mother ever teach you that? You have to get over it. It's finished. You may be angry. You may be angry that you devoted 10 months of your time to him. He may not have said nice things to you. I mean, you can tell.
I've had 24 calls since the 9th on here.
Listen to me. Listen to me. I'm looking at your phone records.
I don't have them.
You called him first.
To get my key back and my mailbox key back.
Change the lock. What? Go ahead.
I just want to clear up a couple of things. You've done a nice job of clearing up the harassment. First of all, I don't understand her suing me for ever how much she sued me for, $1,200, $1,300, whatever it is. I could understand if she was going to sue me for bigamy. I could understand that, because in that pretty little head there's about 12 personalities.
Mr. Parrish.
This is what I get on messages.
Mr. Parrish, listen to me. Not necessary, sir.
Okay, I just letting you know.
Let him show his true colors.
Not necessary.
Okay.
She may be stressed. She's a single mother.
She's a good mother.
She's a single mother. Takes care of the kids. Money, I'm sure, is tight. I'm sure it was much more comfortable when you were there.
I understand.
Much less stressful financially when you were there. You're not there anymore. A life she anticipated is over. But I don't think that you're responsible for any rent when you weren't living there. I think that you took care of more than your fair share of the bills when you lived there in a family that was really not yours. You left. The responsibility is hers. She was angry. And these phone records do not support harassment on your part, sir. I mean, common sense dictates that if you left, you would have been just as happy to be left alone. Period. But very hard when you are stressed to deal with that kind of change. I get it. But you're not entitled to any money, madam. The case is dismissed. That's
Your Honor.
That's all. Car. You were the driver?
Yes, ma'am.
He was the passenger. During the course of the argument, he got very angry and he hit the windshield, or he hit a mirror in your car, which broke the windshield. You want him to pay for that?
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume that after this incident, you were no longer boyfriend and girlfriend, but about a month later, you had to go to the airport. So you were stupid enough to ask him if he would drive you to the airport and he could keep your car and use it while you were away. So he took you to the airport. According to him, he parked it where he shouldn't have parked it. It got towed. And it cost you a whole bunch of money to get the car out of the towing facility. So far, is that about right, Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, that's correct.
No. Look at me. Look at me,
Yes.
smarty pants. Yes, Judge, that's correct.
Yes, it is. Correct.
All right. Mr. Jordan's defense is he broke the windshield in the car instead of breaking your face, because that's how mad he was. So he hit something that couldn't really injure. Am I reading it right?
Yes, you are.
And the second part about taking the car and having it towed, he says, well, you should have come home from your vacation early and taken care of your problem, right?
Right, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jordan, did you eat spinach as a child? Regularly?
Yeah.
Now, I want you to tell me when this incident was, Mr. Jordan, in the car.
Late August.
August of 2006.
August of 2006.
All right. Where were you coming from, sir?
We were coming from our apartment, and we were taking the cat to the vet, which was neglected, and it was dying, and I was very off. And that's the bottom line.
Whose cat was it?
It was hers.
What kind of cat was it?
It was a Savannah F2.
A Savannah F2.
Yeah.
What is that?
It just has some wild cat in it, so it's like half wild, half regular cat.
How long had you had the cat?
About 6 months.
And when you say she neglected the cat, Mr. Jordan, what do you mean she neglected the cat?
It means it didn't have its proper shots. It wasn't taken care of correctly. It was not fed the right food.
Okay. So you were angry with her that you were taking the cat to the vet.
Yeah, it was dying.
And what did you do?
Well, she was degrading me, putting me down, and
Well, what did she say to you, Mr. Jordan?
a bunch of stuff like worthless and just stuff like that, you know.
She called you worthless?
Yeah, stuff like that, yeah.
What else did she call you?
A bunch of profound words that I can't say on TV, but,
You mean
know.
profanity, not
Profanity,
profound.
yes.
So what did you do?
So I punched the windshield.
And who's responsible for that?
She is.
Because she made you angry.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you took her to the airport
Yes.
in her car, and then you took her car to work.
Yes.
Did you park it in a place where you shouldn't have parked the car?
No.
You mean the police made a mistake?
Yes.
In towing your car?
Yes.
Was it parked near a fire hydrant? Was
No, they say it was blocking a driveway.
it blocking a driveway?
Yeah.
But there was no driveway.
No, there was a driveway, but it was not blocking a driveway.
You mean somebody could have squeezed through?
Definitely. No, it wasn't blocking a driveway.
You mean they just selected your car at random because you ate your
No.
spinach as a child?
No.
So what happened when you came out and found the car no longer there, Mr.
So it was
Jordan?
gone, and I went to Anaheim Police Department, and I couldn't get it out.
Well, when you went to the Anaheim Police Department, what were you told?
She had to come get it out.
And you said that she was on vacation.
Yes, I did.
Did you contact her?
Yes, I did.
Did you ask her to send you a letter of authorization so that you could get the car?
Yes, I did.
And did she send it?
No, she didn't.
Why not?
Because he said that he didn't have the money to pay it. So if I send it, he wouldn't pay it anyway.
Is that what you told her?
No.
What did you tell her?
I told her to come get it out.
Who was supposed to pay for it?
I told her I was going to pay for it.
Oh, good. So?
If she came home and got it out, but she remained in New York for another 5 days. That's
Well-
why that bill's so expensive.
Oh, the bill is so high, sir, because you parked in a driveway.
No, it was $160, and whatever she paid, that's her fault.
Tell me how much the impound fees were.
Together with the ticket, $435.
And the windshield?
It is $1,097.
Did you have the car fixed?
No, I haven't. I don't have the money to have it fixed.
Okay. Anything else you want to say to me, Mr. Jordan, before I let you go on your way, sir?
No.
Wasn't this a pleasant experience? Judging for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,530. Claim that the defendant, who is an old boyfriend of yours, owes you some money.
Correct.
For a loan that you made to him. And the purpose of the loan was to have an old car fixed.
Yes.
This was a specialty car?
It's just, it's going to be a classic soon. It's just a car I always wanted
Me
to fix
too.
up.
What kind?
I clean windows on high rises.
That's a pretty dangerous job.
Yeah,
How long have you been doing that?
like 7, 8 years now.
Make a good living?
Yeah, except when they lay you off.
Well, you don't do it when it's windy or snowing or raining.
Right.
How much do you make a year?
Anywhere from 48 to 68,000 a year.
And how many people do you support?
Just myself.
What kind of car is this that you have?
It's a 1986 Ford Mustang GT.
And your age, sir?
I'm 24 now.
Got a lot of money in the bank?
No, unfortunately.
Do you own a home?
No, I'm working on it. I'm renting an apartment for now.
Well, you make a lot of money. What do you do with all your money?
It's expensive to live in New York.
You don't put any money away?
No, I try. Not really.
You need a good woman, sir, to help you out. You also have a claim for harassment. It is your claim that he's been making harassing phone calls to you, and it's because you believe it's because you confronted his now girlfriend and told her that he was still involved with you.
She did not know about the payments. She never knew. He began dating her a week after we broke up, and she just found out about our involvement beginning of January
How
of
did
this
she
year.
find out?
She found a text message in his phone.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, sir, because she was harassing.
She was harassing for what?
Yeah, she was mad about the breakup, so she
She
couldn't
mad
leave
about
me
the
alone.
breakup, or did she ask you for money?
She was harassing me about everything.
Was money involved?
Yes.
These are not hard questions, sir. Now, tell me about this loan.
We were dating for about a year, and within that time, he needed some major repair work done on the car. It was a car that both of us were using for transportation, or rather him. I don't drive. I don't have a license.
So he was driving you around?
Yes. I used to live with him, and where we live, you cannot get around unless you have a car.
How long did you live together?
About 9 months.
Where were you living at the time? In your apartment?
Staying with my mom at the time.
So how were you living together?
She
Where did
allowed-
you live together?
In his bedroom.
In his mother's house?
In his mother's house.
Just a second. In his mother's house. So neither one of you were paying any rent?
I did I tried to give them money as much as I could.
Don't tell me tried. I'm not interested in your trying. So you weren't paying any rent? And you weren't paying any rent?
We were, when we could.
Well, sir, if you make $50,000 a year, it seems to me you could help out with your own rent. What does your mother do for a living?
She's a stay-at-home mom.
Well, how does she support herself?
Her boyfriend.
And she had the two of you living there?
Yes, correct.
Tell me about the loan.
He needed some major repair work done on the car. The car was not running, and he asked if he could use my credit card because I don't have any money except for my credit card, and he told me he would pay me back. So I lent him the credit card, and within that time, he was making payments to me weekly.
To you or to the credit card?
He was giving them to me, and I was paying the credit card because the credit card was in my name.
How much was he giving you?
Anywhere from $100 to $200 a week.
Tell me when you actually put the bill on your credit card. What was the date?
Between June and July, 7 transactions were put on the credit card in the amount of about $5,000.
I'd like to see it.
Sure.
Who had physical possession of the credit card?
I did.
So how would this money be placed on the credit card?
A few times I went with him to use the credit card, and there were a few times where I just gave him the card. And I never used the credit card, Your Honor, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 times. It was all of the car repairs.
Who has the car now?
It's his car. He has it.
When did you break up?
August 26th of 2006.
So shortly after the car was taken
Yes.
care of. Now, Mr. Lara, I read your answer. Your answer says that you had made an arrangement with the place that was fixing your car, that you were going to pay them out.
Yes.
And she took it upon herself to go in with a credit card and pay the bill. But that's not true, because there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different times that the credit card was used. So you must have known about it.
Yes, I did.
And did you say, don't do it because I'm going to pay them
Absolutely.
out?
I insisted that she didn't do it.
Each time you said, don't do it because I'm going to pay them out.
She said it's something we both need, so.
I believe that. No, I believe that. Listen to me, Mr. Lara. I believe that she said to you, listen, I use the car, because she did use the car. So she said, we're both using the car, so I'm going to pay for it. Instead of paying them, pay me. And she says that you were giving her money, Mr. Lara.
Yeah, I felt bad. I didn't want her to spend so much for
Now,
a gift.
you felt bad when you were living together?
Yes.
Speak up!
Yes.
Scared to death of me or what? Are you always this low energy, sir?
Yes.
It's very hard to get excited with you, Mr. Lara. Mr. Lara, I want you to pay careful attention to all my words, sir. While you were living together, you felt badly about what she spent on the car, on your car, so you were giving her money.
Yes.
After you broke up, you stopped feeling badly, so you stopped giving her money. Is that what you're telling me?
She kept on harassing.
No, no, no. Don't tell me her. I don't want to hear harassing. I want to hear, while you were living together and using the car together, listen, I want you to follow the logic of this. You were paying her while you were together and using the car together, right?
Yes.
After you broke up with her and started to see your new girlfriend and she wasn't using the car anymore with you, you didn't feel badly anymore, so you stopped giving her money.
Well, I didn't want it to interfere with my relationship. She kept harassing me because things with her, who she was trying to get with, wasn't going well, so I think she's suing me because of the
I don't
breakup.
give a rat's behind what you think. I asked you a very simple question, and you understand my question, because I don't think there's total vacancy between your ears, sir. While you were together and both using it, you paid her for laying out the money. When you were no longer together and she wasn't using the car, you stopped paying her. That's what you're telling me. That's objective, not what you thought, what you felt. That's what happened. Doesn't that sound stupid to you?
No, because it was a gift.
Mr. Lara, I know that you have this word gift in your mind, but what you did in paying her belies the fact that it was a gift, sir. You paid her for the credit card. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars, according to her, because she's only suing you for what she claims is the balance, which is $3,400. And the total was close to $5,000 to fix the car. So you paid her a lot of money to pay down the credit card. Do you understand, sir?
Yes.
Was he more exciting when you were together?
He had his moments.
Few and far between.
He has a problem with confrontation, Your Honor.
He has a problem with confrontation?
Yes.
Oh, and I love confrontation. That's why we don't get along. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,400. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your complaint, you say it was 6.
6 years, yes. That's when the trouble started.
And during the time that you were living together, were you working?
Yes, I was working.
Continuously?
Continuously.
And what about the defendant? Was he working?
No, he was always between jobs. He had over 5 jobs.
How long were you unemployed, Mr. Monson?
It was like a month.
But other than that, you were working?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did you arrange your finances?
In my paycheck, I pay the mortgages and bills.
And what about with his paycheck?
His paycheck, whenever he can help me, he'll give me some money.
It doesn't seem like a very, very appropriate financial arrangement. Did you have a joint bank account?
At one point, we did.
Oh, fine. So you had a joint bank account. And when you had a joint bank account, did you deposit your paychecks?
Yes, I did, but money was missing from the account. Plus, child support was pulling money from the account because he owed over $53,000 in arrear back payments, which I have evidence.
You don't have to show me. I got it. You picked him.
Right. Right. Bad apple.
Well, I would have figured that out if it's true within a year, not 6 years. You have no children together?
No.
Perfect. This is your complaint. You say that he trashed your house when he moved out, and you want him to fix up the house, that he also took all the property in the house. When he moved out, you want the return of value of your property. Also say that he has a car that was evidently in both your names. You don't necessarily want the car back, but you want your name off the title because you don't want to be responsible for the car anymore.
Correct.
Now, Mr. Monzon says that the car is just as much his as it is yours, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Who paid for it?
Apparently I did.
What do you mean apparently? What does that mean?
Because she said that I didn't make the house payment, so then my check only paid the Montero, so I guess the Montero's mine then.
I have.
I mean, that's what she told me. My check wasn't making the house payment. It was just paying the bills in the Montero. Hello, how did you make the house payment then?
Did you take any property from the house, sir?
The property I took from the house...
No, the answer is either
yes, I did.
Or no. What property did you take from the house?
I took some furniture that I bought.
That you bought when?
When we were together.
From what money? Is not an answer.
Like August.
From the money August?
I mean, what'd you say about the furniture? I mean, you're confusing me, I'm sorry.
I want you to try to pay attention, not try to think ahead.
Okay.
It will be too taxing for you. I want you to think of what I'm saying just at the moment. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you get the money from that you used to purchase the furniture?
Oh, from my check, from my work, my job.
Okay. Did you deposit it in a bank account?
No, I gave her my check, and I had my own money.
You mean you had different money from the money that you earned from your work?
Since we were no longer together, as she claimed, I wasn't going to give her the rest of my check anymore.
I'm asking you about the furniture that you purchased, sir, that was in the house.
Yes, I purchased it.
Oh. See, this is not going to be easy. Listen, almost marrieds don't cut it in court, especially this one. Is not particularly interested in your almost married debt, your almost married joint property, your almost married bank accounts. You choose to get married, we've created an entire and an elaborate court system to deal with that. You choose to live together without benefit of marriage. There are certain things that you're going to fall short when the relationship terminates. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. So, you want the furniture or the car?
I'll take the car.
Perfect. Where's the title?
I had the register already in my name, because that's what she wanted.
Fine. So it's out of her name now?
Yes, it is.
Is that what you want?
Yes, and also the F-150, his truck, my name is also on there too.
The F-150 is in my dad's name. It's no longer in the name.
Okay, listen to me. Where is all the furniture?
Some of it is gone because she abandoned the house and me, and I didn't know when she was going to come back or not. She left right...
Where's the furniture?
It's gone.
Did it fly away, sir? Did the earth open up and take it?
Some of the furniture was still there.
Okay. Mr. Monzon, you're making my life very easy, sir. Very easy. Let me see pictures of the house, please.
Do you want to see the before or after?
I want to see both.
Okay.
And the property that he took from the house, give me an approximate value of this furniture that's gone.
The ones that I'm concerned about are my computer, armor, passport, necklace that I got from my mom, my late mother, and...
That's not furniture, madam. You're not talking furniture. I'm talking about furniture.
I
You're
didn't come
talking
here
about
for furniture. I came.
Oh, because you say in your complaint that he emptied out your house.
Yes, but what I'm concerned about is my computer, my passport.
Where's her computer?
The computer was bought for me. She bought that computer for me.
No, I have.
Just a second. It's not your computer. Do you understand? The computer is going back to her. You've got the car and the truck. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you get. That's what I'm giving you. Period. Everything else goes back to her, including the computer. Do you understand? Within 5 days, the computer goes back to her. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut an order to motor vehicles to transfer the titles to both the truck and the car back to her name. Do we understand each other, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what kind of an agreement you signed when you came here? That every decision that I made, you would abide by.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Within 5 days, the computer goes back to her in good condition. Because if it's not, I'm going to take your car away. Now do we understand each other, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay. Now I see the nice house. By the way, you have a passport, too?
No.
You're going to have to write away for another passport. All right, it's got a nice house. Can I see the after, please? Perfect. Oh, my goodness gracious me. Mr. Monzone, what were you so angry about, sir?
Well, I was angry at her, but I didn't take it out on the house. House don't hit back.
I understand from reading the complaint that there came a time when you weren't there. He changed the locks on the house. Did you change the locks on him?
Prior to November, I did.
Did you let him back in?
No, he kicked the door in.
And what did you do?
I called the police because
And the police told you that you couldn't lock him out?
No.
Okay. Did he come back into the house?
He came back into the house.
How?
He kicked the door into the house.
You already told me that he kicked the door once.
Right.
And the police were called.
Right.
What happened when the police were called?
They told me that you should have locked him up because he has every right to be here.
You shouldn't have. That's what I thought.
Because I was coming home from work, and I didn't know why I was being locked out anyways.
I would have locked you out a long time ago, but that's just me. Who made the holes in the wall, sir? I don't believe you.
Okay.
I don't believe you at all.
When I left the house, it was in good condition.
Not now. So either you did it or she destroyed her own house.
Your Honor, I was served some papers from one of her lawyers saying that they hear voices in the house. And, like, if they hear voices in the house and I'm at work, hello, what did that tell you? Somebody else is in the house. Call the police, I'm being robbed.
Mr. Monzon, you walked out of the house with probably the only two valuable things that were there, which were a car and a truck. Now, you say one is in your father's name. How did it get in your father's name?
He was the one who bought me that truck, and they just put it in our name just to show him how much they cared about us, that they didn't want nothing to do with it.
He bought the truck for?
For me, but to put it in our name.
He put it in your name because you owed back child support, and they were going to take the truck if you put it in your name alone. Who are you kidding?
No, that wasn't the reason why.
Wasn't the reason why? But
No,
it was a very good reason. Is that smart of me to think of that?
Yeah, it is, but it wasn't the...
Right. Right. I'm just going to cost you to clean up this mess.
I don't live there, so it's hard for me to get somebody to go and give an estimate. I've been working with my realtor, and she's been trying to get someone out there also, and we haven't...
Well, how do you expect me to figure it out?
It's a lot of damage. I have receipts from when I installed the carpet, brand new carpet, and the stove that he damaged. I have receipts of it.
In what year did you install that?
It was July '06 when I had the house on the market.
And was he living there in July of '06?
July '06, he actually went to rehab, drug rehab. He was gone for a week.
You had been living with him. So if you put the new carpet in the house, madam, it's from monies that you had pooled together.
No, this is money from refinancing my house.
How much did you take out of the house?
I took out to pay off the car, which was $21,000 on the car, and
which car?
The Montero.
You paid off the Montero?
I paid off the Montero. I have the refinancing paperwork. Shows the check distributed to Mitsubishi.
Can I see that, please? You paid off the car?
Yes, I did.
You want the car?
I do want the car back.
Oh, you want the car?
But he refused to give me back the car, so I said, if you want to keep the car, then take my name off the title because I don't want any responsibility. But if I can get my car back, I would love to have my car back because I paid for that.
She says she took out a home equity loan and refinanced the house for $21,000 and paid off the Montero. Is that true? I have paperwork here.
I guess so. I mean, like,
What year is the Montero?
2002.
How much was it?
$800 and something that apparently I was making the payments on.
So you can't pay for both the house and the car at the same time?
No, but apparently she said she was. It's her car and the house. Your Honor, the house, okay, the house, we bought the house together. I mean, like, I'm not even countersuing against that.
When was the house purchased?
It was purchased like 2 years ago, which my parents gave her $15,000 so she can purchase the house. We could.
Gotcha.
So, I mean,
Gotcha. And the house was put in her name?
No, she put it in her own name.
I said the house was put in her name.
Right. Why would you put my name in there?
Why? Because you owe $53,000 in back child support. That's why. And they would have taken your house. That's why it was put in her name. Same reason that the cars were put in other people's names other than yours. Have you paid your child support?
Yes, I pay it out of my paycheck. Comes out.
Because now they take it out of your paycheck.
Yes, I pay
Good.
it.
Who are you living with now?
I'm between houses.
You're living in one of your cars?
No. I'm supposed to be leaving to go to Denver. Apparently, I had to come here first, take care of this.
Leaving for Denver for what?
To start anew, to get away from the plaintiff.
Where are your children?
My children are in California.
And where are you living now?
I'm living in Benicia right now.
In California?
Yes.
So you're moving hundreds of miles away from your children?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I chose her over my kids. Stupid, huh? She gave me the choice.
Listen to me.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody makes you make that choice, sir.
You're right.
Nobody makes you make that choice.
Biggest one I made.
Okay. Now, he does not have your necklace. He does not have your passport. He has your computer, which he's going to use. Do you understand?
Yes.
The house is in your name.
Yes.
Did you get a deposit for $15,000 from his family for the house?
It was $12,000, yes.
So you did. Did you pay them back?
I did.
When?
I borrowed $12,000 for the first house that I bought. When I sold that house and made some money, I paid them back after I sold the first house.
What about a down payment on this house?
I bought it with $0 down.
With $0 down?
Yes. The money was to put in the bank to show that I can make the payment.
And where did you get that money from?
I borrowed it from my sister and from his mother.
From his mother?
Yes.
Did you give it back to her?
I did. Yes, I did.
Did she give it back to your mother?
I don't know.
You were there.
Okay, fine. Okay. You get your computer back, and I believe that you're entitled for money for the car because I believe that you made a substantial payment on the car. He's going to take your name off the title. He says he's already taken care of that. But I believe you when you say you took out a home equity line of credit, and from that you paid off the Montero, so I'm giving you a judgment for $5,000, unless you want to turn the car over to her. What's your pleasure?
I'll keep the car.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Yeah, this is case number 105 on the calendar in the matter of Arnold Hill versus Arnold. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Miss Arnold, this is your former husband?
Yes.
And this is your?
New husband.
New husband. And according to your complaint, your former husband made allegations about you and your husband with regard to your treatment of your two children. You have two children with him?
Yes.
As a result of that, the two of you were briefly arrested and lost custody of the children for a very brief period of time. The children are back with you now.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold said he has every right to have been concerned about his children. He acknowledges he made the report that resulted in your arrest, and he is going to explain to me why. Now, when were you divorced, Miss Arnold?
August 16, 2004.
And how many children do you have, Mr. Arnold?
Two, a boy
Only
and a girl.
two children?
Yes, ma'am.
What are their dates of birth?
March 19th for my son, 99, and my daughter's September 4th, 19.
Did you and your former wife live together until 2004?
No.
When did you separate?
2002 or probably one.
When did you separate?
2000.
Your former wife has had physical custody of the children since 2000. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Since one of the children was a year old, right? And one of the children was 5 years old.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Explain it to me.
My son was at least about 3 years old when we was living together.
Is that right?
Bruce has been on and on in the household. So it was basically 1 month he'll be in the household, the next month he will not.
That's a lot.
With duration of that, his appearance was basically an in-and-out father. I assumed full custody of my kids, sole custody, when I got the divorce, August 16, 2004.
Okay, now I got it. Now, sir, you made a report to Child Protective Services or to the police?
To the police.
When?
December 2006, I believe it was around the 15th or 16th.
Prior to December 2016, that's the date of your divorce, have you been regularly paying child support?
Yes, off and on.
Yes, off and on is not regularly paying child support. Since August 16th, have you been regularly paying child support?
I pay child support twice. I pay from the public aid and for our divorce.
I'm asking you, since August 16th, 2004, when the divorce granted you primary physical custody, have you been regularly paying support?
Yes.
Well, you said yes, and then 2 seconds ago you said yes off and on. Which one is it?
Because when I wasn't working, I was still giving her $50 a week, and they weren't taking out my check.
Is that right?
No. Basically, since like all of this happened December 16th, I'll say a minimum of about 2 payments that he has given me. This current year, up to date, I would say at the most, maybe a month worth of payments. And that's $50 every other month, if that.
Okay. Now, sir, you reported an incident to the police in December of 2006. You want to tell me what precipitated that report?
Yes, my children was home with my mother, their grandmother, and my daughter and her was talking. And my daughter came out and told her everything that was going on about the past and the present. And so my mother got on the phone, called me crying. She was saying that my kids are being abused.
Don't tell me what your mother said to you. I assume that there was a time that you came home and spoke to your children.
I was getting to that point, ma'am.
I know, but you can't tell me what your mother said to you, sir, because that's hearsay.
I understand.
You can, however, tell me what your children... Listen to me. You're not paying attention, Mr. Arnold. You cannot tell me what your mother said to you. There is an exception with regard to what children say to their parents in family court proceedings, so I'm accepting what the children said to you. And I assume that as a result of the conversation with your mother, you had a conversation with your children.
Yes, ma'am.
When?
As soon as I got off the phone with her, I came home and I talked to my children. And that's when they informed me about the things that was going on.
Well, I would like you to tell me specifically what they informed you and which child informed you of
My
what.
daughter informed me that one occasion that Zanita had sat on top of her back while Lawrence whooped her. Then my son told me...
Okay, now, that's what your daughter said to you.
Yes, ma'am.
That her stepfather had hit her with what?
A belt.
Did she tell you when?
It was like a month prior to that date.
Are you making this up as you're going? Are you sure that she said to you it was a month before?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
Okay. And is that all your daughter told you?
No.
What else did she tell you?
She told me that she got a whooping because she didn't like what her mother had picked out for her for school, and she got in trouble for that.
Is that at the same occasion that you're talking to me about?
No, ma'am.
That was on a different occasion?
Yes.
And when did she say that happened?
Well, she didn't really say when that one happened. And then my son told me that he gets whoopings for no reason. So he told me about when they used to stay in Texas, that he showed me a burnt mark that he said Lawrence had burnt him with an iron. I said, did he do it on purpose or on accident? He said, no, Daddy, he did it on purpose.
When were you living in Texas? What year?
2003, 2004.
So that's 2003, 2004. So that your son was either 4 or 5 years old when you were in Texas. Okay. And what else did your son tell you?
He told me, well, actually, she told me one time that he had whooped him and hit him in his private part, and it swelled up so bad that she claimed they took him to the hospital.
And your former wife told you that?
And he's a witness to that.
Okay. So as a result of that, those are the reasons that you called the police?
It was all building up, the stuff that they telling me that I didn't know what was going on.
Okay.
Yes,
that's the reason why you called the police. Mr. Hill, I have a couple of questions for you, sir. And I would prefer answers from you so that I don't necessarily have to interview the children, who I understand are here, because I assume that they've already been examined and spoken to. So I would prefer that I get the legitimate answers from you. Mr. Hill, have you ever hit either of your stepchildren?
I have disciplined them with a belt in previous instances, yes.
How often?
Very infrequently.
More than 5 times since you've been their stepfather, or less than 5 times?
Less than 5 times.
More than twice or less than twice?
More than twice, less than 5.
And have you done that with the approval of Miss Arnold?
Yes.
Has Miss Arnold ever disciplined the children with a belt?
Yes.
These are hard questions.
Sure. I'm sorry, man.
You got a lot of nerves.
Miss Arnold, don't speak to him.
I'm sorry.
Don't speak to him. How often have you witnessed Miss Arnold disciplining her children with a belt?
I would say over the past 4 years, less than 5, more than twice.
Both the boy and the girl?
Yes. My daughter really doesn't get whoopings at all. We don't have
You mean your stepdaughter?
Yes.
How old was your stepson when you started to discipline him with a belt?
He was 4, almost 5 years old.
And do you remember the reason that you disciplined him with a belt?
No, not offhand. It was so long ago.
Well, try to tell me what infractions were that you remember that caused either the boy or the girl to be disciplined with a belt.
From what I remember is for lying.
Who was lying?
My son was lying.
What did he say?
I believe it had something to do with school. We hold school very important, so...
Do you remember, Miss Arnold?
Actually, this particular incident when he's talking about, it was dealing with school. We had a conversation with Michael regarding his grades and also just the upkeep of his schoolwork. We talked with him on numerous occasions about it. Our whoopings or our discipline methods are not what Bruce tends them out to be. When we do, at that point, when he did whoop him, it's more or less, we'll tell him to hold out his hand and whoop him 1 or 2 times at that point.
Okay.
Are you in the household?
Shh. Hey! Listen to me. Your lawsuit alleges that Mr. Arnold had no right to notify the police or Child Protective Services about what he perceived to be abuse and or neglect of his children. You believe that. And I'm telling you that he had every right to notify Child Protective Services and if notify the police who reported you to Child Protective Services in order to ascertain whether or not you were using excessive corporal punishment. He had not only the right, but he had the obligation to do that. You two look like very nice people. There is a difference between corporal punishment and excessive corporal punishment. I acknowledge that. That's a term of law because the law in this country doesn't say, although perhaps it should, that you cannot corporally punish your children by using a belt or a hanger or anything else. The law says that you cannot excessively punish your children. But as a parent, if my children came to me and said that their step-parent was with a belt, a 4-year-old,
Ma'am, it wasn't
I'm
a belt.
speaking.
It was an iron.
It was an iron.
He's stating,
That's what he's stating.
Listen to
That's
me.
why we got arrested
Listen to
because
me.
he said that we whooped
We
him
have
with a
the-
metal iron
the
and we
actual
burnt the
statements.
child.
Never said-
That was a lie.
No, no,
we
no,
have
listen,
a statement.
listen to me
Prove
listen to me. Hey,
Come on.
you're not paying attention to what I'm saying to you.
Yes, we are, yeah.
I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but that's not the allegation. The allegation is a
Listen
metal
to me.
iron.
Listen to me. If your children were telling their father that they felt as if they were being disciplined harshly by you and their stepfather, and it is apparent to me that you do discipline them harshly. Now, whether in the jurisdiction that you live, that's permissible or not, that's not up to me to say. I assume that the courts permitted you to have your children
and you
back.
asked Mr. Arnold, has he whooped his children either?
Listen to
Over
me.
The past
And you
number
know
of
you
years?
have whooped those kids. You
Why
don't
should
need
you
to be.
advise
Why?
me?
Why? Because you whooped his
Still
children.
ain't got yours for
One.
doing that to my son.
I ain't did nothing to your son.
I would like for you to talk to the kids.
Just a second.
Because that's what it's about. He made those kids lie.
Talk to the judge.
No, just a second.
I take care of
Yeah.
Hey!
Sir,
If you say
are
one
you
more
listening?
word, leave
Talk
it
to the
down there.
judge.
If you say one more word, I'm not even going to continue with the case. Do you understand, Miss Arnold?
Yes.
You have a temper problem. And my sense is if you have a temper problem here with me in a court situation where I am in authority and in control of my space, my sense is that if you have a temper problem, you can lose it with a 5-year-old. Do you get it? Now, try to keep your mouth shut. Do you understand until I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you get it?
Hey,
Stop
hey,
it.
hey.
Do you get it?
Yes.
I said to you, I'm going to ask you questions so that I won't have to interview the children if I don't have to, because the children have already been interviewed, I guarantee, by many professionals with the Child Protective Services and the police department. Put your hand down. I didn't have to interview the children because you told me, the two of you told me that you whip your children with belts. Now,
We no longer do that because we have actually had intervention prior before him making allegations.
listen to me.
Yes,
listen
ma'am.
to me. Whether or not you've had intervention,
We
and
had counseling.
you had counseling.
Yes,
Hey,
and it was
just
proven that these charges
they were
came after
allegations.
the
I
fact.
dropped the charges.
just
He
a
should be in
second.
jail.
Hey,
No.
I'm saying
You
the
should
same
be in
thing
jail for
to
not
you
paying
as I
child
said to
support. I
them.
raised your kids.
How come she get money from me every other week?
Your case is
Every other week,
dismissed.
don't pay for it.
Goodbye. Difficult adulthood. She has some children that you are caring for because she had a drug problem for a while and was unable to care for the children. And I assume that you're doing okay now.
Yes.
You look fine.
Thank you.
Sometime during that period of time, she gave you the home that she had, and you and the children live in that home.
Yes.
You subsequently found out that she had used that home while it was still in her name as collateral for bail for her boyfriend.
Right.
The boyfriend skipped out. The bail was up to several $1,000s. There was a lien on the house for that amount of money, and you want her to pay you back for that.
That's correct.
Is there a mortgage on the house?
Yeah.
How much did you pay for it?
$115,000.
When did you buy it?
It would be like 96 or 97.
99.
Oh, 99.
What's the house now worth?
$150,000.
So it is appreciated in value.
Yes.
And when did she give it to you?
in September of '03.
And are you paying the mortgage on the house now?
Yes, I am.
Did you put any money down on the house?
No, I didn't.
So the house is now worth approximately $35,000 more than when you purchased it. And you put in zero money.
Well, I put some upgrades in the home, but I didn't.
That has
put any.
nothing to do with, you put in zero money.
That's right.
To purchase it.
Right.
And between 1999 and 2003, you paid the mortgage?
Yeah.
You did not pay the mortgage.
Well, I did. It went into foreclosure 3 times during that time. It was because of non-payment. So the first time it was $1,800. That was in '01. She came to me and said, I'm in big trouble.
Okay, that was $1,800. And
okay.
then?
A year later, in $1,200, and I paid that. And then I moved in with her. She was having trouble paying her bills and everything. And in 2003, it went into foreclosure for the 3rd time for non-payment.
But you were living with her at the time?
Yes, and I was giving her my half of the house payment to pay, but she was not paying the house payment. So then we owed $2,425. And I said, well, if you want me to pay it this time, it's no longer your house.
And that was in September of 2003?
Yes.
And when did you actually turn the house over to your mother?
September of 2003.
And when did you use the house as collateral for bail for your boyfriend?
In June of 2004.
Well, how could you use the house as collateral?
Well, it was still in my name.
Well, how could it be in your name if you turned it over to your mother? When did
she
you
kept
actually...
it in my name.
Oh, she can't do that.
No,
Why did
what
you
we
keep
did
it in
is
your name?
we did a quitclaim deed and we notarized it and everything, but I did not record it at the county recorder's office.
Why not?
Because I was not anxious to take her house, and she said that she was going to pay me back. And so I put on the letter of explanation on the quitclaim deed, I gave her a little bit of time to do that and said if she did it by a certain date.
Miss Dennis.
She never did it.
Diane Dennis says her daughter, Christy Dennis, owes for a bail lien on her home.
Ms. Dennis, if you had recorded the deed, which you, I assume, ultimately did.
Yes, I did.
Then she couldn't have used the house as collateral.
That's right. That was my mistake, definitely.
It was your mistake.
Right.
But you're really not out any money because you have a home in which you put in no money and you have equity in the house of over $35,000.
Yes, and I've helped her a lot. The only thing
I'm not talking about you helping her. And I assume that when she gave you this house, and if there was an increased equity of $35,000, nobody paid any federal gift tax on the house.
Well, it hasn't been sold.
Doesn't have to be sold. She gave you a gift. And if the gift is in excess of $10,000, you have to pay a gift tax on that, Ms.
Well,
Dennis.
she was going into foreclosure. It was either going to go to the bank or to me.
You're making excuses. You know exactly what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is you now have a home in which at most you put in $4,000 if you paid the back mortgage payment.
No, that was over $6,000, 3 times.
I have 18 and 22.
And then 24, 25, the last time. That was the
well,
foreclosure.
You were living, just a second, you were living there.
And giving her the payment.
You were living there. I don't believe that you were giving her the payment, Miss Dennis.
Was I giving, okay.
Miss Dennis, I don't believe you were giving her the payment. With her history of not paying the mortgage, it doesn't sound right to me that if you're living there because your daughter's on drugs, that you would turn over your half of the mortgage payment to her so that she would pay the mortgage. Ms. Dennis, it doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it's not true.
Okay.
So,
well, I thought she wasn't paying the payment because she didn't have the money. She went through a hard time. She lost her partner.
Ms. Dennis, I don't
working.
believe you that you were giving her the money. I don't believe that you were living in the house with her to take care of your grandchildren because she was going through a difficult time, according to you, on drugs, and you were handing her over money. I don't believe it.
Yeah,
well, I don't believe it.
After
I don't believe it.
Okay, after she signed the quitclaim deed, the only thing that changed is that I was now making the payment.
Miss Dennis, you have a house in which you have now $35,000 in equity for which you paid nothing.
Your Honor, I upgraded the downstairs.
Good for you. Now you own the house.
At the time I took the quitclaim deed, she had about $10,000 worth of equity. This has been since 2003 that she signed it over to me. In 2004, she used it as collateral to get her boyfriend out of jail.
Couldn't
now
have
that's
done
the
that.
only.
Couldn't have done that, my dear, if you had taken
but
the deed.
It still changes hands. The only thing is, it doesn't give notice. As far as I gave constructive notice because I'm living in the house.
Don't tell me about constructive notice. You did not give constructive notice to the bail bondsman. Because if you did, then the bail bondsman would not have been.
Yeah, I found out that about
you think if you talk more than me, you're wrong on the law, Miss Dennis.
Of course, but
of course.
A year
so
later,
if you're wrong on the law, and if you come to a court, somebody's going to say to you, you're wrong on the law. A certain amount of sympathy, because if you were out money, I would say, I have sympathy. Well, that's not what this is about. We're here on one particular issue. And the one issue that we're here to address is whether or not you are entitled to the money that you had to repay to take a lien off your house.
Right.
And I'm saying to you that it wasn't your house.
Okay.
Unless you record it, because that's what the law
Right.
requires, that you record a deed so that the rest of the world knows that this is your property. The law does not require that with regard to personal property, the locket around your neck, the shirt that you're wearing, but the law requires that with regard to land.
Right.
You chose, for whatever reason, not to do that. She was absolutely entitled, therefore, during that period of time to use her house as collateral. Now, if you're looking for a sympathy factor, there is none, because according to you, the equity that she had built up until 2003 was $10,000. Now the equity is $35,000. So sympathetically, it's here. Morally, it's here.
Okay, I paid over $6,000 just to get it out of foreclosure when she was non-paying. Okay, I put in improvements that was way over the
Goodbye, Miss
10,000.
Dennis. You're not getting anywhere. The case is dismissed. Okay. Is that he is responsible for a portion of your mother's funeral expenses.
That's correct.
Mr. Perks says he is not responsible for any portion of your mother's funeral expenses. When did your mother pass away?
April 22nd, 2007.
And it is my understanding that her primary asset was a life insurance policy. Is
That's
that correct?
correct.
Did she have any other assets other than this life insurance policy?
She had a few $100s in a bank account that I used to pay for the nursing home.
Other than the life insurance policy, did she have a home? Did she have a car?
No.
Did she have bonds? Anything else?
No.
Life insurance policy?
Yes.
And how much was the life insurance policy?
I don't know the total amount. We each got a portion of it. It was $2,082.74 a piece times 8, so a little over $17,000.
And insurance policy, I assume it was from work? Or?
Correct. It came out of her pension.
So it was a pension?
Right.
And it is also my understanding from your complaint that there was no named beneficiary on the policy.
That's correct.
So far, are we correct on that, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
So, only asset is a $17,000 life insurance policy, correct?
Yes.
You have 7 siblings.
That's correct.
Correct. Your mother did not have a will.
No, she did not.
So you decided, I assume, that you had been taking care of her business?
Correct.
You didn't object to that?
I didn't object. I didn't know I was objecting to because she never consulted me on anything.
Don't give me a lot of baloney.
Carolyn Kruger says her brother, Kevin Perks, refuses to pay his share of their mother's funeral. Kevin says he shouldn't have to.
Now, when you went to visit her, did you take charge of her medical care, of overseeing her stay in the nursing home? Did you take care of her other business, or did you just go and visit her?
I just went and visited her.
So you knew somebody had to be taking care of that.
That's correct.
And who did you think was taking care of that business?
Carolyn.
There we go. And you didn't object to that?
No, I did not.
Perfect. Now, you did receive a portion of this life insurance, did you not?
That's correct.
How much did you receive?
$2,076 and some change. I don't know the exact amount.
When your mother passed away in April of 2007, did she pass away in the same town where you live?
Yes.
Did you go to the funeral?
Yes.
Did you put on a suit?
Yes.
You married?
Fiance.
Did your fiance go with you?
Yes, she did.
Do you have children?
Yes, we do.
Did you bring your children to the funeral?
Yes.
So they went to their grandmother's funeral?
Yes.
Were there flowers at the funeral?
Yes.
Was there a grave site that you went to?
Yes.
Did you ever stop to say to yourself, who's paying for this? Mr. Parks,
No.
did you ever stop to say to yourself, who's paying for this?
Yes.
Did you think the burial fairy was paying for it?
No.
No. So you knew that somebody had to be paying for it.
That's correct.
Okay. And who did you think? Put your hand down. Who'd you think that was?
The life insurance policy.
Right. Look how smart you are. You thought that her life insurance policy was paying for it, right?
That's correct.
Put your hand down. It did. All your brothers and sisters kicked in from the life insurance policy to pay for the funeral, except you. That's what the case is all about. Now, your sister could very easily have said, I am going to take all the proceeds of this life insurance policy, and I'm going to pay the $6,000 for Mom's funeral, and whatever is left over, I'm going to give it to my brothers and sisters. Right?
That's correct.
Well, that's what you thought happened. Instead, your sister decided to do what she considered the right thing, which was name each of you as a beneficiary on the life insurance policy. You all got your money, and everybody divided the $6,000 or whatever it was for the funeral and sent her a check for their portion. Go!
Well, Your Honor, the life insurance policy, normally most life insurance policy, they have a provision, or the funeral home has an agreement where you can have a form filled out to have the life insurance policy paid for it, the funeral expense itself. She never told me about this expense whatsoever. A week after I got the check, I never heard anything from her, never agreed to it, never paid anything. She didn't consult me about it, nothing.
So? And your point would be?
I should have been consulted further on...
I'm consulting you right now. I'm consulting you. Who's supposed to pay for your mother's funeral? What? Not you. You have no legal obligation to pay for your mother's funeral. None. But you have no right to accept full proceeds of a life insurance policy, which by law is supposed to pay for her funeral expenses before it's dispersed to any beneficiary. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. So it was done a little bit backwards. Instead of taking the money out and then put your hand down. Does it sound like you're losing?
No, I'm sorry.
So instead of taking the $6,000 out and paying for the policy and then distributing it to you, she distributed it to the siblings and then says, okay, brothers and sisters, now send me a check. It's the same thing. Do you understand?
Yes.
You don't have to be consulted about that, sir. This one wants to say something. I'm just dying to hear what she has to say. Dying to hear what she has to say.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, but during the funeral and everything that was at the funeral, as far as the casket, the flowers, anything, Kevin was not allowed or invited to pick any of that stuff out.
Was he invited to pick out who the nurses were going to be at his mother?
Your Honor.
Pay attention to what I'm saying to you. Was he consulted, and did he make himself responsible for his mother's care in the nursing home where she was?
He had no choice.
Of course he had a choice. Did he have a choice to pick you?
Yes.
Then he had a choice to pick where his mother went and who took care of her and participating in her care. He chose not to do that. Just as he chose, madam, listen to me very carefully, he chose to let somebody else take the responsibility for picking out a casket, for picking out flowers. It was not as if he wasn't invited to the funeral. He went with you and his children. He just made himself dumb, which I have a feeling isn't much of a stretch. You owe your sister your share of your mother's funeral. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. How much was it?
$750.
Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all. The defendant in his house?
In a house, yes.
In a house. Do you live in the house also, sir?
Yes, I do.
And the intention was for you to live there for a year, although you did not have a written lease?
Correct.
It was your understanding that there was some sort of internet capacity in the house because you worked from the house?
Correct.
Did you have a discussion with the defendant about that?
About it before I moved in, or it
Yes,
not working?
before.
Yes.
In any event, you moved in and you found out that you could not work from the house because there was no, I don't know, Zoom, internet, whatever it is. I don't do that machine. And you told him you were going to be moving out.
After it did
You
not
want
work.
your security deposit back. The defendant says that you broke the lease that you had with him because he was supposed to stay there for a year, even though you did not have a written lease. And even though he rented your apartment or your room, he doesn't have an obligation to return your security deposit. In addition, he says that you took a piece of property that belonged to the house, some sort of a modem. So let's get to his counterclaim to begin with. Do you have his modem?
No.
Did you take his modem?
No.
What makes you think she took your modem?
Well, I have a photograph of the modem in the house under her desk at the time that she moved out, and it's gone along with the other property. So I can only assume that she has it along with the other things that were in the room.
Is it possible you have his modem somewhere?
I did look. I don't have it. But I can also tell you that the desk that it was behind, I didn't remove from the room.
Who did?
The roommate that moved in. He had to disassemble it.
Okay, I removed the desk along with the roommate and removed the plasma television from the wall and put it outside.
She doesn't have your modem. She doesn't have your modem, and she doesn't look like a thief.
I agree.
Good. So we've taken care of your counterclaim.
Well,
she doesn't have it.
Well, not quite. I don't know if she has it.
She says she doesn't have it, and you have no proof that she took it.
I have proof that it was under her desk at the time that she moved out, and now it's nowhere to be found. Time Warner.
You have a new roommate in there.
Right.
Maybe the new roommate took it when you were disassembling it.
We've gone through the entire room. We've
Just
looked
a second.
for it.
I didn't say that you haven't gone through the entire room. Maybe he took it. Maybe he's the thief. You don't think so?
Well, I never actually...
No. You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think she is either. Doesn't lady who has a responsible position, who gave you a substantial security deposit, who paid her rent on time when she was living there, would steal something from you and then look at me in the eye and say, I don't have it. I didn't take it. I don't have it.
I mean, you say that she's a responsible person. I don't necessarily think that's true. I mean, who agrees to a one-year lease and then leaves 4 months after it?
I'm going to tell you somebody, sir. She. And now she's going to tell me why she left. You gave him a security deposit in the amount of $2,500?
The security deposit was just $1,250.
Okay.
It was in addition
and
to
it's
personal
clear, Mr. Rodriguez, because there's no allegation, that she left the room in other than reasonable conditions. So
Absolutely.
the only reason you're not returning her security deposit is because she breached the lease.
Correct.
Okay. When did you move in?
August 10th.
Did you pay August's rent?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you pay September's rent?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
What about October?
Paid the rent in full.
And November?
Paid the rent in full.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And when did you tell the defendant that you were leaving?
In the middle of October.
Did you tell him why?
Yes.
What did you tell him?
I told him that the internet continued to have problems and would continually break down, and therefore I would spend numerous hours continuing to try to make it work, try to connect it, and if it didn't, I'd have to call Time Warner.
And what did he say?
He said that he didn't realize that it was that big of an inconvenience, that he would have done more about it if he'd known that it was going to make me move out of the house.
The first time that I had heard that it was a problem was at the point that she was moving out. I had no idea when she moved in that she was planning to run her business or her part of her business out of the room.
Did she tell you that she needed internet connection, sir?
Absolutely.
And what did you tell her about
That
it?
there's internet connection that we all use. All 4 other people that live in the house are still to this day using an internet connection. However, it doesn't run at the speed that she needs to run her business. I never knew that she needed a specific speed to be run.
Is it slow running?
It runs average. It runs normal for me.
It would break down in my part of the room. It was split. The last time Time Warner had come to the house, they had spliced it so many times, according to what they say, that they would...
Tell me what they said to you. But you told him in mid-October, and you moved out in December.
December 1st.
When did the new roommate move in?
December 6th.
The new roommate's name is?
Lee.
How much was your rent each month?
$1,250.
And what is Lee's rent?
$1,250.
Did he pay December's rent?
Not in full.
In what amount did he not pay?
He paid minus 5 days of rent. I'm not sure the exact dollar amount.
Okay. Did you have all your property out by December 1st?
Minus a plasma TV and a desk.
So you did not have all your property out by December 1st?
Correct.
When was all of your property out?
I know for sure it was all out as of the 4th.
So you overstayed your stay by 4 days?
Yes.
Okay. You cannot profit, sir, from a situation that was handled totally appropriately. She did not damage the property. She gave you notice.
She absolutely did damage the property, Your Honor. I have proof that she damaged the property.
Oh, well, you didn't say that. Wait a second. Hold on a second. I want to see if you said that in your answer. Did you? Would you please show this to Mr. Rodriguez? That's his sworn answer. Would you please have him point out in his answer where he says that he's not returning her security deposit because she damaged the property?
I asked her to remove the trash, but she never did. I had to hire a repairman to clean out the trash, repair the walls, and change the locks.
Repair what walls, sir?
So the plasma television that she says that she moved out, or that I took down myself and put outside, left behind a number of large holes in the wall.
Show me your bill for fixing the holes in the wall.
This is the bill for fixing the holes in the wall.
Okay.
This is the estimate that it would have cost to remove all of those things and put them outside.
No. All I want is fixing the holes in the wall.
Your Honor, if I was...
Why did you change the locks?
Well, I didn't know Crystal before she moved in, and I...
Sir, you want to change the locks, change the locks. That's what you do as a landlord.
But, Your Honor, if I was in the business of being a landlord and...
Listen to me, sir. I want to see a picture of the wall, and I want to see a bill for spackling the hole in the wall. Period. Okay.
Your Honor, we had a one-year lease agreement.
You did not have a one-year lease, sir. One-year lease has to be in writing. Otherwise, it's a month-to-month. She gave you a month's notice. She gave you more than a month's notice.
Your Honor, we had a verbal lease agreement.
No, you have a lease agreement, sir, when it's in writing if it's for a year or more. Other than that, you have a month-to-month tenancy. And if you want something more than that, and if you want to lay out your rights and responsibilities, go get a form lease and sign it, and then you have a lease for a year or more. Do you understand? The only reason I am charging her the extra days is because she actually had property in your house. And if she actually has property, even if it's in the hall, that means she's still a tenant. So she didn't vacate December 1st. She actually kept property there for at least 4 days. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt for the 5th day because that's when you moved the new roommate in. So I am deducting $200.
Your Honor, the lease that you say is month-to-month. If I was interested in a beach rental for month-to-month, I would have charged much more than $1,250 a month.
Do whatever you want to do. You want to lease your place for a year or more, get a written lease that outlines everybody's responsibility. Other than that, you have a month-to-month tenancy. Most jurisdictions that I know. Now, it may be different from where you are, but any contract that has a duration for a year or more is supposed to be in writing. And if you choose not to do that, you do so at your own peril, sir. And you cannot profit from it. You didn't lose any money. You rented the room and took an additional security deposit. You didn't lose a month's rent. Miss Anderson did absolutely the appropriate thing. She let you know in October that she was vacating in December, so she gave you more than 30 days to find a new roommate. You did, in fact, find a new tenant who paid you the exact same amount of money that she did, and I'm deleting from her request the amount that covers the 5 days that your tenant didn't pay for the month of December, giving you more than she's actually liable for because she's not liable for more than 30 days. But she kept stuff there, so she is, in fact, responsible for at least part of it. So you owe her $950. I am taking off $200 for the overstay because you lived there past December 1st, and I'm taking off $100 to plaster the wall. By the way, where did the new tenant put his TV?
He doesn't have a hanging television.
$950. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you. That's all. Boy, this 6-year-old was in your backyard where your dog was playing. He was invited over by your son, who is a couple of years older. How old are you?
8.
Stand up next to your mother. I have a few questions for you. Tell me your name.
My name's Cody.
Cody, do you know this little boy's name?
No.
What's your name?
Hayden Moore. He does know my name.
Caden Moore.
Yeah, when we were at daycare.
Okay. Is he your neighbor?
Yes.
Remember that day when your dog got injured?
Say yes.
You remember?
Yes.
You have to answer my questions. Were you playing in the backyard?
Yes.
Did you invite him to come over in your backyard? No. Did you offer him a lollipop?
Yes, but I put it through the fence.
Did you offer him a lollipop?
Yes.
And did he take the lollipop?
Yes.
Did he come around in your backyard?
No.
He was never in your backyard?
Yes, but...
How did he get there?
Climbed the fence.
And what happened when he got there?
We started playing for a little, then he picked him up and threw him up in the air and broke his leg.
What did you say to him when he did that?
Nothing.
What did you do?
I picked up Gizmo.
And where did he go?
My mom told him to go back home.
And he did. And you took your dog Gizmo to the doctor?
Correct.
And he had a broken leg?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you want Miss Moore to pay for the vet bills?
Correct.
I'm listening.
I did not become aware of the situation until she had come over to my house to let me know what was going on. I talked to my son, and he said that her son told him that if he'd climb the fence, that he would give him a sucker and they could play.
So he's over in the backyard?
Mm-hmm. And my son did say that he picked up the dog, that her son asked him to put the dog down, and my son did that. However, he did not throw her dog at all.
Well, how do you think the leg got broken?
I believe that he did drop her dog. A dog that weighs 4 pounds has a leg like a toothpick, so I'm sure it did break. That's,
okay.
I believe that.
So either way, whether he dropped him or threw him.
I offered to pay the bills. I gave her my cell phone number. I asked her to please call me when the dog was done so that I knew what was going on. She's my new neighbor. I just moved in.
So what was the problem?
The problem started when she tried to press criminal charges on my child.
No,
what
That's
actually in the police report that I have with me. She had told the police a completely fabricated story. The police
Well,
came...
what did you do after the dog? You took the dog to the vet?
After I picked the dog up, went in the house, and immediately went over to her house. My husband held the dog for me. I went over to her house and explained to her what had happened. She told me that's not possible. Her son was in his bedroom, and that is not true. He was just in my backyard, and I told him to go home.
Okay, well, maybe she didn't know that.
We went into the backyard. He wasn't in there, so he was in the garage. And she asked him, and he said yes, he did pick the dog up and drop the dog.
Okay.
And I told her, I said, you're going to be responsible for these vet bills. I said, I don't have the money. She looked at me and said, well, I'm a single mom, so maybe it's best to put the dog to sleep and I will buy you a new one. I immediately looked at her and said, that's not how this works. This is my dog. I mean, he's my baby. We're not going to put him to sleep.
Did you go over there, Miss Crowther, angry?
No, I did not raise my voice at her.
You don't have to raise your voice.
I was upset. I was bawling.
Okay.
I was upset.
Okay. I mean, I can imagine that you were upset, and I can imagine that you were not calm when you spoke to her. You may not have been screaming at her. You may not have been cursing at her. I don't know. But I assume, based upon just the way you phrased it to me today, that you did not go over there in a neighborly-like way.
Right.
Well, that was wrong. This is not something that's done maliciously.
Right.
So then you should have taken it down a notch. Right?
Right.
You owe her an apology.
I'm sorry if I upset you.
You should have taken it down a notch. She didn't do anything.
Right. I didn't become enraged until she told me to put my
just
dog
a second.
to sleep.
Enraged is a relative term. If you went over there and said, gee, that was just a real bad accident, I think that your little boy was responsible for my dog's broken leg. Right. You know, I'm going to take the dog to the vet. You know, we're going to be able to handle this. That's one way of putting it. Another way of putting it is to go over there with screaming mimis on, you know, because your dog is injured. I got it. But I think, at least with her, you overreacted. She said she'd pay the vet bill. What's the vet bill?
Well, the problem is...
She said she'd pay the vet bill. What's the vet bill?
$364.25.
That's a hefty bill for her to pay, but if she said she would pay it, it's her responsibility, and she's going to take care of it. Did you call the police?
Yes.
Why?
Because I was informed that I had to have a police case number in order to file a civil claim in court.
Well, I don't know who's giving you legal advice. Certainly not any reputable person I know. You don't need a police report in order to file a small claims case.
I don't understand if I said I would pay it, why she would have to file a small claims case.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
She was only going to pay the initial bill. She told me she would not pay to have the cast removed. She flat told me, I'm only going to pay the $299. And I says, what about the remaining cost? She told me, too bad, I've talked to an attorney and you're not getting any more than that.
Actually, she told me she wanted to take her dog to the vet weekly for the next 6 months,
The-
and she wanted me to pay for that.
The vet
Don't
required that he come in every week to have the cast looked at so that it didn't get infected or anything
Whatever,
happen.
the whole bill was $364.25. Judgment for the plaintiff, $364.25. When you have a new neighbor, you try to handle things reasonably. She seems like a nice lady. Now you're at odds with each other and you share a backyard. That's terrible. And you have two kids who probably play very nicely together. You know, they're two nice little boys. See if you can go have a cup of coffee together. It would probably be a very good idea. You're going to live there for a long time?
Plan to.
All right, so you got off to a bad start. See if you can make it better.
Okay.
You'll be happier. That's all.
Thank you.
From the defendant, a dog that you saw advertised on the internet?
That's correct.
And you two live in two different states. Before the dog arrived at your home, it died. You want the return of your money, which you had sent to Mr. Singh prior to his putting the dog on a plane.
Yes.
Mr. Singh says it's not his responsibility, it's somebody else's responsibility. Right?
Correct.
Ah, okay. What kind of dog was this, Mr. Singh?
This was an English bulldog.
And how much did you charge the Slavins for this dog?
$3,600.
Why so expensive, sir?
It was a smaller version, and it's categorized under a miniature English bulldog.
Did you raise the dog?
I had him for maybe a year and a half, maybe.
That's not my question. I didn't, of course you had him. I assume that you didn't steal him. I asked you if you raised them.
Yes.
How old was the dog?
When what?
How old was the dog?
About almost 2 years old when I sold him. I have
So
a
if-
specific date right
So
here.
if you
on the
have the
certificate.
dog for a year and a half, the dog was 6 months old when you got him.
Correct.
Why are you asking me? That sounds like a question, Mr. Singh. Is that correct, that the dog was 6 months old when you got him?
Correct.
Who did you get him from?
Veronica,
For how much?
$3,500.
Was she the breeder of this dog?
Yes.
When did you put this ad on the internet to sell the dog?
The dog was never, I guess maybe January.
The dog was never what?
I really didn't want to, you know, the dog wasn't heavily advertised. It was a litter from the dog that was advertised.
This was a female or a male?
This was a male dog.
And how many puppies were born from that litter?
4.
Is that a question or an answer?
It's an answer.
Let me see the ad, please. This is not an advertisement, Mr. Slavin, for the dog that you bought, and that was Monster.
Correct.
How did you come to buy Monster?
Well, I asked him about any of the pups, were any of them left, and he said they weren't. And then I proceeded to ask, did he have any older dogs for sale?
When did you correspond with him?
About the 25th of January.
Well, this ad is for May 14th, 2005.
That's correct. I had not printed off the original ad, but that was a copy or one that's been updated stating that Monster still is at stud. So point being, either he sent me a different dog.
Just a second. How many monsters do you have, sir?
I have one monster. Gestation of a female dog is 63 days.
Correct.
Okay, after a female dog has her puppies.
Say anything else to me. You contacted him in January of 2005.
That's correct.
And he said he's left.
Correct.
And you decided to see if he would sell you Monster.
That's correct.
The 2-year-old male.
Correct.
So far, correct?
Yes.
And you agreed on a price of?
$3,600.
Even though he was selling the puppies for $2,500.
Well, it sounded good. It says proven, it's had puppies before, so it would be able to use it as a stud yourself.
Well, why would you want to use this dog? Were you buying it as a pet or were you buying it to breed?
Buying it to breed. We had 2 females.
Are these miniatures?
Yes.
Now, do you have a contract with him?
No, ma'am.
When you're a breeder, you usually have contracts.
We're from the country, and every man's word should amount to what his word is, but I know that's old-fashioned.
Let me see the vet report that you have while I'm taking the rest of this testimony. Okay. Now, according to you, you put the dog on a plane.
Yes, I did.
Let me see.
And also, this is the receipt. Basically, I was called and just told to drop the dog off at this particular site at this time and this date by the Slavens. And this is the receipt that says that transportation was prepaid for. So meaning I did not have anything to do with Delta Airlines.
Who paid for the transportation?
They did. I didn't do anything
Okay.
with airline.
Fine. Correct. You took care of the transportation.
No, I just gave him $3,600, and he took care of it.
If you see right there, it's checked off prepaid, Your Honor.
It does, but it doesn't say it was prepaid by. Well, that's really not the issue, Mr. Singh. The real issue is whether A, you sent a sick dog, and B, more interestingly to me, how can you send a dog that clearly everybody acknowledges did not arrive alive and still advertise Monster for stud 5 months later?
I've been breeding dogs as a hobby for a while. Initially, I lived in Fresno, California. Now I'm a dental student here in Los Angeles. And basically how it works is first a female dog goes into heat every 6 months. After she's been in heat for every 6 months, you breed her, and then 63 days is gestation, meaning the dog mother carries the puppies in her stomach.
I know what 63
After that,
days gestation means. I went to high school.
4 months after that, you have to keep the puppy with the mother. I bred Monster before I sold him. That's why I was advertising him as the father of these puppies.
Your Honor, he's advertising that as current stud, meaning it's alive, it's current.
Both of the parents are, well, that's misleading. Both of the parents, Monster and Pup Girl, are very lightweight and especially short. Well, that's not true.
How's that not true?
Well, because Monster isn't a present. Both of these parents, Monster and Pup, Monster, who was very lightweight and short, and Pup, who I assume is still alive, is very lightweight and short. Monster was, not is. You know what the difference between was and is?
I do. I went to high school.
Oh, okay. So if you went to high school, Mr. Singh, you know. Both of the parents, Monster and Pup. Monster was a lightweight dog. He is no longer. So you can't say they are, because he isn't an are, he is a was.
But at the time the puppies were bred?
Doesn't make any difference. This is as of 7/4. You're advertising this, sir. As of 7/4, Monster is no longer alive.
And the website hasn't been updated for a while either.
That's misleading. Then it's misleading, Mr. Singh. Now, did you sell these puppies?
Yes.
Really?
They're
You have
sold.
the names of the people you sold them to?
I do.
Did you tell the people that Monster was dead?
Yes. I told him he had been sold. I told him I did not
That's
have...
not what I asked you, whether you told him he had been sold. I said, did you tell the people that bought the puppies that Monster was dead?
Correct, I did.
You did. I don't believe that, Mr. Singh.
We can have him come in.
I could, or I could just rely on my own common sense and your response to me, sir.
Okay.
That you didn't say to people who were going to spend $2,500 for a dog that the stud died.
But the death wasn't my responsibility of the dog.
Oh, I'm going to make that assessment right now, Mr. Singh.
Okay.
When did you put this dog on the plane, Mr. Singh?
2/15/05?
Well, you took the dog to the vet on 2/14.
Correct.
This dog was not a well dog when you put him on the plane, sir.
How was it not well?
You want me to tell you what he wrote in his notes about the dog?
Yes, go ahead.
She. What I can read.
Wait, did you get those notes from the veterinary themselves, or?
Yes.
Can I take a look at that?
Sure.
These notes on the dog, the veterinary knew this is an English bulldog. So basically, she's making notes in regardless of a regular dog, but this is actually an English bulldog, so brachiocardial sounds are normal, and having a high temperature are normal with English bulldogs. In that, they're so normal that Delta has a specific policy for shipping snub-nosed dogs.
Mr. Singh, are you playing with me, sir?
No, I'm just trying to state my side.
The vet says that the dog looks like it's been chewing on its rump as well. It has very long toenails, which indicates that it has not been well cared for. I also have dogs. Green mucosoid discharge. I'm not talking about the sounds from your English bulldog, because we all know, I mean, if you're a dog lover, you know different breeds. English bulldogs have very small noses so that they breathe, they snort, they make noise. I'm not talking about that. Your vet said that the client, that was you, declined a microscopic examination, declined to have the dog's ears cleaned, declined medication, declined nail trim. You said that the dog will be traveling because the dog is a Valentine's Day gift for a friend. That's what you told, that's what the vet said you told the vet. And the vet says, underlined, see vet as soon as possible at new placement for infection. Okay? Told no food in the morning of the flight. Airline may decline boarding with eye skin infections.
Eye and skin infections are very common for English bulldogs.
Listen to me, sir. Listen to me, sir. You did the wrong thing, and somebody pays you a substantial amount of money, and you have a dog that the vet says needs some treatment. You are supposed to ensure that before you put this dog on a plane, this dog, bill of health, not just sufficient to travel, clean bill of health. And you didn't do that. I wouldn't buy a dog from you, sir. I would suggest that if any of the 10 million people who watch this program thinking about buying a dog, they will never buy a dog from you because you haven't done the right thing. When you take on the responsibility of being a dog breeder, and you have an animal that requires a human being to take them to the doctor and make sure that they're taken care of, you're going to be a dentist, sir?
Yes.
Is that what you're telling me? You're going to be a dentist?
Yes.
When somebody has a child, and the child has something wrong with their mouth, the parent has the responsibility of bringing the child to the dentist. And you have the responsibility of, as the dentist, of taking care of whatever it is that that child needs, because the child can't do it for themselves. You got my drift, Mr. Singh?
I do.
Now, a small miniature English bulldog, 2 years old, if it's got mucus coming out of their eyes, mucus coming out of the nose, seems to have a trouble with biting its skin. And the vet says, you know, the dog could really be treated before you put it on a plane and send it to a new home. And you say, not necessary. As long as it's not an extremis, you give me a health certificate because it's good enough to go on a plane. This vet was not happy with the way this dog looked. And you should have seen to it that that dog was in tip-top shape before sending it off to new owners. That's what you do if you're a responsible, caring individual. So not only wouldn't I go to buy a dog from you, sir, I wouldn't let you fill my worst cavity. Because what you did was the wrong thing. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,600. That's all. You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Weaver, this is your complaint. Your daughter and the defendant's daughter are friends, and you were taking a trip to Hawaii. According to your complaint, you invited Mr. Cooley's daughter to accompany your family on the trip. And the arrangement was that if she were going to go with you, her mother and father, who are divorced, were going to split the cost of her basic trip.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that right?
That's correct.
And it is your claim that Mr. Cooley, who was her father, did not pay for his half of her trip.
Yes.
Mr. Cooley said that he never had a contract with you, right?
That's correct.
That he was sort of presented with a fait accompli, that he fell on some hard financial times, otherwise he certainly would have wanted his daughter to have this. By the way, she did go with you. His defense is that he never had a contract with you. When were you planning this trip?
February of 2004 is when we first contacted them about planning the trip.
When you say them, who did you contact?
I contacted Brittany's mother because Brittany lives with her mom, and we discussed the option of her being able to go with us.
And what was the arrangement that you made with her mother?
I told her mother that we'd be happy for Brittany to accompany us because she was our daughter's best friend, and that if she would pay for just the airline flight and then the expenses of the activities such as the snorkeling and et cetera that we did there,
Okay.
and that we would be glad to pay for all of her food and then any of the other miscellaneous expenses. And then her mother said that she would have to contact Brittany's father to see if he'd pay for half and let us know. Then she called us and said that she'd spoke with her ex-husband, and he agreed.
Did you speak with him?
We spoke with him 30 days before the trip. He came over to
No.
our house. Not that date, not that time.
When did you go on the trip?
December.
So practically a year later.
Correct.
And it wasn't until November that you say that you contacted Mr. Cooley. Is that right?
Yes, because we were unable to get a hold of him.
Had you purchased the tickets already?
Yes, ma'am.
So you purchased the non-refundable tickets based upon the conversation you had with Brittany's mother.
Correct.
Now, you understand that up until this time you had no contract with Mr. Cooley. Do you understand that?
No, ma'am.
Well, I'm going to try to explain it to you.
Okay.
What you did was you had, at best, a contract with Brittany's mother to pay for half the cost of the trip. Brittany's mother cannot obligate Brittany's father to pay for the other half. She can't say he's going to pay for the other half and in any way obligate him. Do you have a sibling?
Yes, ma'am.
Brother or sister?
I have 2 sisters and a brother.
Okay, let's take the brother. He's easy. What's his name?
Michael.
All right, let's say Michael wanted to have his family room redone. So he went to a contractor, and the contractor said it's going to cost $10,000 to redo your family room. And Michael said, that's fine. I'm going to pay for half, and my sister promised me that she would pay for the other half as a birthday present. So you go ahead and you do this renovation for $10,000. Michael gives him $5,000, and he says, go get the other $5,000 from my sister. What's your first name?
Susan.
Susan. Goes to Susan. Susan says, listen, I told him if I could, one day I would like to make a present of $5,000, but I never agreed to pay you $5,000. I didn't have a contract with you. You want your money, go to Michael. Now do you understand?
I understand that, ma'am, yes.
He may have agreed to something, but up until November, I just want you to understand you had no contract with him.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank
Got
you.
it?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me what happened in November.
Well, my husband spoke with him. I don't know if you want to talk to him as far as
I sure
that.
do.
Okay.
He's the only one I can speak to if he spoke to him.
I talked to Mr. Cooley about the expenses that we had occurred already, purchasing the non-refundable tickets, and that she would need $300 to $400 to pay for the incidental expenses that she would occur as far as the snorkeling, the luau, and that kind of stuff that she would need over there. And he agreed at that time that...
What did he say? Not he agreed. What did he say?
He said the trip sounded good, that it was a one-in-a-lifetime trip for her, that it was something that they had never, ever planned for her to do, and that he would pay his half.
He said he would pay his half.
His half.
And are those the words he used?
To the best of my recollection, yes, Your Honor.
Did he give you any money?
No, ma'am.
So when was he supposed to pay you?
He indicated that he had had some problems health-wise, and at the time he was unable to give us any money. And we told him when he got back on his feet, whenever he could pay us monthly payments or whatever have you, but basically he had us over a barrel. Brittany. We weren't going to disappoint her and not take her.
Now it's your turn.
Well, first of all, I didn't go to their house at all. My conversation with Mr. Weaver was over the phone, and that was only because in August I went on disability, and I was informing him that I was not going to be able to pay, and he had said, quote unquote, well, give me what you can, and if you can't give me anything, then that's fine, your daughter's going to go anyway. So I mentioned to my daughter that I wasn't going to be able to pay for her trip, and she was going to have to ask her mother to pay for it in its entirety.
Okay. Something that you said to me, Mr. Cooley, however, has an interesting ring to it. You said that you called the Weavers because your financial circumstances changed. You wanted to let them know that you could no longer pay your half. Is that right?
That's true.
Well, that suggests to me, sir, that you had originally told your ex-wife that you would pay for half when she originally called you in February of 2004. Are you following what I'm saying to you? Am I correct, Mr. Cooley, that you originally told your ex-wife that you would pay for half of the expenses?
That is correct. But in February of 2004, I was under the impression that I was only going to help her out on her airfare.
Fine. Let's say that's what you were told, that you were going to pay for half the airfare. Not help her out, half, because the words that you used to me were half, right?
Right.
Now, the airfare was how much?
The exact price was $729.43.
So is what you're telling me now, Mr. Cooley, that what your understanding was that you were going to pay for half the airfare, and that's what you agreed to with your former wife? Don't think of what I'm going to say after that, Mr. Cooley. Believe me, you're never going to be able to leapfrog over my mind. Now, is that what you agreed to with your former wife, to pay for half the airfare?
Right. Well, to be honest with you, my correspondence, don't speak, has been through my daughter.
Is that what you promised your daughter?
Correct.
And your daughter, I assume, conveyed that to her mother?
Yeah.
Brittany, what did you tell your mother?
Well, I told my mom that I was going on the trip and how much it was.
How much did you tell her it was?
I told her that as far as what I knew, it was $350 that she was supposed to pay.
And you told your father the same thing?
That he was supposed to pay $350 also.
And he agreed to that?
Yes.
Good. Now you can sit down. Okay, Mr. Cooley, let us assume everything that you say is correct, that you were going to pay for half the airfare. Why didn't you pay him?
Well, in August, I went on disability, and so my whole financial situation changed.
You already said that to me. But at this point, they had non-refundable tickets, and one way or another, your daughter was going to go. Did you ever think, sir, of saying, I have to send the Weavers $50 a month because I agreed to do that? They took my daughter on a trip. I had a contract with them to pay them half, according to you. Not according to them, but according to you. Half the airfare for your daughter.
When I gave them the $150, there was somewhat of an agreement that I could pay monthly.
When did you give them $150?
I gave them $150 upon them coming back from their trip.
Give me the date. You have the date?
It was January 6th, Your Honor.
And you cashed that check?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So that's January, February, March, April, May, June, July, 6 months later. And you haven't given them any money since?
Well, in April, the tides had turned because they kind of sent me a threatening letter, or at least I thought it was threatening, informing me that we don't want any ill feelings toward you or your wife. This could affect our daughter and your daughter's friendship.
They're absolutely right. It's a very good reason for you to send a check and say, I'm sorry, I told you that finances were really tight. I realize that this is my obligation. Here's $50. Here's $30. Here is something to demonstrate that I recognize that this is my obligation. You have a letter like that?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Well, that's the wrong thing. You did the wrong thing, sir. Mr. and Mrs. Weaver, the only contract that I can ascribe to Mr. Cooley is for half of the airfare. And I say that because that's what his daughter says, that she told her mother, and she told him. So, unfortunately, what?
We sent Mr. Cooley 3 letters advising him that he still owed us money. He sent us a letter back. And in that letter, he said that it's not verbatim.
Show me the letter.
You got it, ma'am.
If what you're saying to me is he acknowledges anything more than the airfare.
The letter's several pages long, Your Honor. The first page shows that he agreed to pay half.
Well, let me
but it
see.
just says to pay half of Brittany's expenses. The whole letter.
Uh-huh.
And, Your Honor, if I may just say one more thing. Brittany's mom paid us the $550.
I don't care what she
owed
did.
us, so she knew that half of it was $550.
Listen
if I
to
just
me.
might say that.
You cannot ascribe anything to him that Brittany's mother knew.
Okay, I won't say anything else
Nothing.
about that.
If you want to have a contract with somebody, you have to talk to them face to face, or you have to speak to them personally over the phone and then memorialize it in a written document that is signed. Then it's a contract that you have between two people. If you're dealing with children, she could just as easily go to her father and say, listen, I want to be able to go on this trip. It's $200 to go. Will you pay for $200? And he says, sure, I'll pay for $200. And it turns out that it's $2,000. You've already booked the ticket, so you're out $2,000. What am I going to do, put her in jail? Of course not. That's why you don't deal with children when you're making a contract with...
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is all wrong, sir. You say to them, I agree to pay one half of my daughter's expenses. And if I believe what you say it was based on me being employed. Well, that's not true. That's not true, sir. Your agreeing to pay for half of her airfare was not based upon your being employed, because you didn't have that conversation with your daughter. When you said to your daughter, I'll pay for half of your airfare, you didn't say to her, on condition that I'm still working, right?
Right.
Okay. I had no control over my going on disability, which cut my salary in third. So what? What's that their problem? That's your problem, not theirs. What's the nature of your disability?
Stress.
And you came here? I can see from this rambling letter that you are stressed, Mr. Cooley, so I won't proceed any further. You owe these people an additional $214, and that's giving you every possible benefit of the doubt, sir, that the only thing you agreed to was to pay for one half of her airfare. I mean, I think that if you wanted to be a good guy, you would say to them, listen, I don't want you to be out any money, and I don't want our daughters who were good friends to be estranged, so I'm going to make it my business to see to it that you get the extra $50 a month until it's all paid off. But from a legal perspective, I can't do that. I can, however, find that you agreed to pay for half the airfare. You have already given them $150, leaving a balance of $214. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused.
2.5 years.
Who do you live with?
Currently, I have one tenant.
What kind of work do you do, Ms. Fleischer?
I'm a computer consultant.
How long have you been doing that kind of work?
Far too long. 9.5, 10 years.
This is your complaint. You rented a room to Mr. McWhorter, who was a friend of yours and going through some difficult times. You said that you would allow him to come and stay in your home, $100 a week, and you claim he left owing you some rent.
That's
correct.
correct.
Which is really not what you're complaining about, because he acknowledges that he owes a couple of $100 in rent. You claim that he made over $2,000 in 1-900 sex calls on your phone.
That's correct.
Mr. McWhorter said, I didn't do that. When were you living with Miss Fleischer and Mr. McWhorter?
Approximately right before Thanksgiving till the 23rd of December.
So maybe November the 20th?
Yeah, it was a Saturday when I moved in.
To December what?
23rd.
You have a copy of your phone bill?
I do. I have a
I'd like to take a look at it, please.
I had spoke to Mrs. Fleischer when I returned from my trip, and she verbally told me over the phone, I took her word for it, I never physically saw the bill myself, that it was between $900 and $1,000.
Look at me! What difference does it make how it was 900 and 1,000? I read your answer, Mr. McWhorter. Your answer says, I didn't make those calls and I don't know who did. So is now what you're telling me, sir, that you did make these calls, you just didn't know the extent of the bill. Is that what you're telling me?
This is correct.
All right, well, that's a little different from your answer. I know that sometimes I can be a little intimidating. That's a very good thing. So I don't have to go through these bills and humiliate you to see how long you stood on the line with these people, probably many of whom, and making out that they're women. Go find a nice girl, Mr. McWhorter. Get your own phone.
May I interject here, Your Honor?
Oh, if you have to.
Robert told me that he had his own phone when we made arrangements for his moving in.
Miss Fleischer, doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
His story now, after he took a look at this kind face of mine, was, I acknowledge I made the phone calls, that I was stupid, right?
Very.
I was unthinking, right? Right? I'm dying to pay you and get out of here because I'm humiliated. And don't humiliate me anymore.
Yes, Your Honor.
They could all be so easy.
There are guys pretending to be women?
Yeah, I saw that in a movie once. You know, there were guys that just raise their voice and they sit there and they make other people feel foolish. It was in some Jack Lemmon movie or something. Remember Jack Lemmon?
Remember Jack Lemmon?
Most people don't remember Jack Lemmon. I remember Jack Lemmon.
May I say something, Your Honor?
What?
I explained to Mrs. Fleischer that I'm an alcoholic and I have gone through several blackout stages. That's why No, I'm putting it all on the table.
Listen, I gotcha. I understand.
And this is part of my recovery, is to make amends for whatever damages I have
So
done
why did you
in
have
the
to
past.
come here? Why couldn't you tell her that outside?
I attempted to. I didn't know that I was even actually have been taken to court until...
Well, where did you think you were going? To Never Never Land today?
No.
How much do you owe for rent?
I believe it would be between $100 and $200.
He left owing $200 in rent.
Okay.
On a week-to-week, there's a 1 week, as I understand it, a 1 week...
There's a 1 week nothing. Don't go crazy.
Okay.
He owes you $2,652.
Okay,
Should have taken care of this before you came to court, sir. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Good.
Your
Thank
Honor?
you very much. That's it.
Parties are excused. You may step out.